Hello and welcome to the Spooky Haunted Places channel. Here is the second part of Haunted Places in California. Thank you for watching and listening. Now let's get to the story, shall we? Chino Hill's story is a man who escaped prison, stalked a family, killing the mother, father and sister, and just cut the boys' ears. They say if you go to the house you will see blood prints and the ghosts of the family. July 2005 update. Recently the sole survivor made a statement recounting the murder. Chochilla Library, bowling alley. A few years back, the bowling alley of Chochilla caught on fire. It started in the kitchen and spread throughout the building. Unfortunately, the cook never made it out in time. He was burned to death, and soon after it was turned into the Chochilla Library. There has been many reports of this man, and you can see a flash of flames and the man run by. The checkout center is over where the kitchen used to be, and you can sometimes feel the heat of the fire and see the man standing there with his spatula and apron on. Chochilla Union High School. Chochilla Union High School has had many students in the past years who have passed away. There have been reports of the students who have passed away still roaming the halls, at the lockers, in the gym, the cafeteria, and in the classrooms. You always get the feeling that someone is watching you in the classrooms. Some students have said that a girl with long blonde hair will ask them what time it is, then disappear. And some say the girl goes by Michelle. Chochilla Minturn Cemetery reports of ghostly apparitions chasing cars down the dirt road, a woman screaming, children crying or laughing, and a man ghost picking up trash around the graves. Chochilla Save Mart Supermarkets, a staff of Dave Markets, Charles Save Californians in Chochilla, California have reported a woman who used to work the graveyard shift for janitorial stated that on the nights that she was alone with the night stalkers that she would feel a presence throughout the aisles or in the upstairs break room. One young man who used to work there stated that he had the same feeling, but he worked the swing shift and only felt the presence in the break room. The young man said that every Saturday was when no one worked the graveyard shift and the store is totally empty. Well, not all the time. Some people have said they would see someone walking around the store on Saturday nights around 2 Tundern Dam. They would also see shadows from a distance as if there is someone walking around inside. Chihuahua, the end of Chihuahua Road, many times a night when you drive home you can see a woman walking on the side of the road. When you pass her, she disappears. One report states, one time I was at the end of my road, which is at the end of Chihuahua Road. I was riding my motorcycle and I was masterly thrown off by something. When I hit the ground I passed out, and when I woke up I saw a black-haired woman above me staring at me. I blinked and she was gone. I am almost positive it was the lady on the side of the road, Chula Vista Hilltop Road. You can hear screams at night, children crying and playing. Allegedly a sailor came home from seas crazy and killed his wife, son and daughter. When near the property you feel chills and a sense of dread. The house burned down a few years back, but the haunting is still there. All you can see now is the chimney standing in the middle of the fenced-in yard. City of Industry, the Sheraton Hotel, please do not attempt to trespass. Security guards that patrol the grounds in the late night hours have reported seeing 2 shadowy figures running through the golf course. Noises can be heard in the back end of these apartments, where a wall separates the complex from the forest. Claremont Botanical Garden girl. There is said to be a small girl, maybe 5 to 6 years of age, who sits by a pond and watches the fish while crying. She is said to be wearing Native American clothing. Most likely she is a Kolilan, pronounced Kahia, a tribe of Native Americans who once lived on that land. Incidences include cold spots, sudden strong gusts of wind and crying sounds. Claremont High School in the old gym of CHS. Many have heard legends of the spirit of a former student. Some stories involve numerous reports of troubled, desperate whispering. One entire PE class claims to have heard prolonged screaming from under the bleachers, but finding no source, and some students have been physically pinned by the ghost. There is a name burned into the floor of the gym. Students believe it is the name of the ghost. Claremont, Griswold's old schoolhouse. There are several ghosts that haunt this old schoolhouse. Several people have heard children's voices when no one is around, and others have seen a white mist walking around. Doors fly open by themselves. Also, there is always a feeling of being watched. Claremont, Thompson Creek Trail, East Path. While walking this path in the late evening hours, strange noises that sound like scratching and footsteps coming from bushes on the sides of the trail have been heard. Also, there have been reports of cloud formations forming skull-like shapes. Also, when no one is around you, sometimes shadowy figures can be seen walking behind you, sometimes hiding behind bushes. The crackling sounds from the power lines overhead don't help the experience too much, adding a deeper eeriness to this occasion. Claremont, Thompson, Creekwoods reports of levitating boulders, invisible walls, short hideous visions of violence, and flying people that follow you until you leave. Also reported there is also strange symbols on the trees and cabin which are said to bleed, and there are even reports of invisible walls which sometimes block entrance to certain parts of the forest. Clayton Contra Costa Pioneer Inn. The Pioneer Inn has been around since the 1860s and is known to be haunted by the ghost of the past. The Pioneer Inn has gone through a lot over the years, from having the second floor collapsing, then having it rebuilt and having it burned down. The ghosts have been known to carry things around and touch occupants on their shoulders and hands. Clayton Eagle Saloon, Clayton Club. The Eagle Saloon, now the Clayton Club, was a building that was brought upriver from San Francisco to the town of Clayton back in the 1860s. At that time, this was one of the 5 saloons in the town of Clayton, and it was the most history of holds, places, hauntings in Clayton. Things have been known to move about, cold spots, glasses moving, and the lights to go on and off on their own. Clayton Keller Mansion. The Keller House is a house built in the early 1920s and was one of California's oldest cattle ranches up to the 1970s. The house was built on an old Indian graveyard. To this day you can still find bones if you are to dig around in the basement of the old house. It is said that the ghost of the Indians still haunt the old house and tend to move things around. The house is now property of the city of Clayton in downtown Clayton, behind the library. Clayton Le Croquette restaurant. The restaurant has been around since the time the town was founded in 1857. The story goes is that during the day a miner from the Black Diamond mine area of Somersville was in Clayton and got into an argument in the old Eagle Saloon across the street. The argument turned into a shootout, and one of the bullets went through the window and stuck a little girl on the street. The people on the street brought the little girl into the restaurant, where she died in a pool of blood on the floor. To this day her spirit can be seen from time to time playing in the street, and the blood stain cannot be removed from the floor of the restaurant. Everything they do to remove it does not work, and the stain returns to this day. It is still there under the carpet. Clayton Morgan Territory RD. It is an old logging road that was built back in the 1800s to bring wood from Santa Cruz to the eastern Contra Costa County. The road cut through between Livermore and Clayton. Since this is a very isolated road, there has been a lot that has happened on this road. One of the legends is of Joaquin Murrieta, California bandit El Dorado. It is believed that Joaquin has buried his loot somewhere in the Morgan Territory area under an oak tree. And in the 1950s, a woman and her husband were on their way home from Livermore when they saw a spirit standing next to an oak tree off the side of the road. Not knowing the story about the loot at the tree, they just thought that they were just seeing things due to the darkness of the road and being tired. Once they started letting the story out to their friends and family, they found out the story about the loot of Joaquin Murrieta. From time to time, people still report seeing the ghost on Morgan Territory RD. But they can never find the spot again when they go back to look for the loot that is believed to be buried there. Clear Lake, Modoc County, Fiddler's Green. A pioneer woman who was said to have lived there was killed by thieves while her husband was away. They threw her body down the well that is still there. At night you can see her apparition walking along the shore of the lake with a lantern. Also, you can hear her playing her fiddle faintly in the night wind. Clovis Anderberry Estate. This was a mansion with an adjacent asylum for women in the 1800s. Many horrible experiments were performed on the patients, so the ghosts are frightened and angry. You'll get feelings of fear and dread if you venture near the house. The mansion is on Clovis Avenue, almost across the street from Sierra Vista Mall. The asylum is in the back. At Halloween, The owner runs a haunted house attraction. This is an opportune time to visit. Coachella Valley High School. The backstage of the auditorium is known for its strange noises of pages being flipped and books being knocked down, which are stared behind the stage, so reported from drama students. Coloma Bell's General Store, built in 1849, the brick building was the center of activity for the large community of gold miners that settled around Sutter's Mill. Modern visitors have reported hearing the ringing of a non-existent bell as the ghosts of former customers walk through the doorway. Coloma Marshall's Monument. On June 24, 1848, James Marshall found 2 nuggets. They were caught in the tail race of the water wheel at the logging mill operated by him and his partner John Sutter. It was the beginning of the California Gold Rush. Between 1847 and 1860, the population of Tai grew from 52,000 to 380,000, largely because of that single event. Fanatical gold seekers followed Marshall wherever he went, thinking that he had a magical gift for finding gold. He died broken and destitute August 10, 1885, and was buried here. His restless ghost has been seen as an indistinct shadow following visitors to his monument. Coloma Pioneer Cemetery, 8 miles no of Place over the High 49 to Cold Springs Hardy, turn left. The cemetery is up the hill on the left, across from the Vineyard House. The phantom of a lady in burgundy watches over the Schieffer family plot in the old settler's graveyard. According to the markers, William Schieffer died 1821 at age 2, Charles Schieffer died 1864 at age 42, and May Schieffer died 1890 at age 27. The ghost is a woman whose hair is parted in the middle and pulled tightly into a bun. She is wearing a long flowing burgundy dress and can be seen from the roadside beckoning passers-by to come up to the gravesite and visit with her. Coloma Sheridan Lincoln Manzanita Cemetery, reported by a local firefighter while fighting a wildland fire. The fire had burned up to the back of the cemetery, appeared to stop at the back fencing, then parted go around the cemetery and continued around the perimeter of the site with no logical explanation. Also, strange sounds can be heard coming from the site from about dusk late into the early hours of the morning, as well as seeing blackened shadows moving across the grounds. The locals do not frequent this 1800s cemetery. Perhaps that's the reason the cemetery is so active. Coloma Sierra Nevada House, a mischievous spirit inhabits this hotel, which was established in 1850. Co-owner Gail Marcy says her employees named the ghost Christopher and blames him for moving pots and pans, hiding knives and forks, and turning off the tea kettles and other harmless pranks. A malevolent spirit named Ma haunted room 4, according to psychic Gene Smith. He shot his girlfriend in that room. Coloma, the Vineyard House in Coloma, CA. There is a famous Victorian house called the Vineyard House, which has been reputed to be haunted by its original owners for many years. The house was built sometime in the late 1800s and was used over the years as a jail, an inn and restaurant, and, as its name implies, a winery. It was also at one time supposedly the site where some executions took place. According to records, the original owners who built the house suffered one tragedy after another. Several of their young children died, their winery was eventually ruined because of a blight, and the husband contracted syphilis, which over time caused blindness and mental illness. Because he became violent from being mentally ill, his wife had him chained to a wall in the basement of the house where he reportedly died. The entire family is buried directly across the street in a graveyard that overlooks the house. Reports of seeing ghosts in the graveyard have also come forth in the past, but most of the stories took place inside the house. Ghost stories of the encounters were told by employees and guests of Vineyard House. One intriguing story was told by a couple who was staying in one of the upstairs bedrooms. It was late at night and all was quiet, when suddenly the couple was wakened by the sound of drunken men coming into the hallway downstairs. They were very loud and were singing and laughing and making a general ruckus. So the husband upstairs stuck his head out the bedroom door to tell the loud men to quiet down, but upon doing so, he saw 3 men dressed in Victorian clothing ascending the stairs, and then they faded right before his eyes. Another story from a different couple who decided to stay at the inn was that something frightened them so badly that they packed up and left in the middle of the night. They reportedly refused to say what had happened that scared them so badly. The basement was used as a bar, and it was late at night after closing hours. The owner was cleaning up and wiping down his bar. He said that there was one last glass at the far end of the bar, and as he was cleaning, The glass suddenly began to shake, and then it slid all the way across until it finally stopped right in front of him. He admitted that he had no rational explanation for what he'd seen. It is believed that the things that go on in the bar are the original owner who died down there while chained to a wall. Other things that have been reported are sounds of rustling skirts, and there is apparently an area near the kitchen that is constantly cold. A woman having dinner in the restaurant claimed that she was approached by a young child who asked her to mash his peas and carrots for him. Another scary incident occurred in the restaurant when a large chandelier suddenly came crashing down, barely missing some of the guests. It used to be that when the restaurant and inn was still in operation, you could pick up a pamphlet that gave information about the hauntings. It was a famous place because it had been there since the gold rush, and there were pictures of famous people such as John Wayne and Dudley Moore hanging on the walls. The hauntings were so well known that the house was featured on That's Incredible, and Ripley's Believe It or Not. Sadly, the house has been closed to the public for quite a few years. If you are ever visiting Old Coloma, the site of the famous gold rush, be sure to drive by the old vineyard house. And know that you are seeing a house that has been famous for its hauntings for many years. Coloma War Lee Story Museum. Eerie waves of murmuring voices have been heard inside this general store. The ghostly sounds of years gone by seeming to rise and fall like the ocean waves. Chattering by the sound of hitting a meat cleaver on a butcher's block. Colton Aguamansa Road at Cemetery, a woman walks the road in search of her children. Colton Carrow's Rest, hunting of a little boy and 5 other girls in the BIG room. Columbia Fallen House Theatre and Hotel, years and years ago it burned down. They rebuilt it into replica of the old one. Now there has been many reports of noises, voices, overwhelming stench of smoke. In one room you can smell whiskey, and in room 9 and 13 a female ghost is seen quite often. In the theatre lights go on and off, and shadows of people are seen. Commerce Veterans Park, place is known to be haunted by a man named Morton who once worked as janitor at this park. People have claimed to talk to a Martin when they have called the park office before it has even opened. Lights go off and on for no reason, doors will open and close, and the radio will change on its own to a local Spanish station. Concord, Brennan Theatres 14. In Theatre 12 you can hear little kids talking and laughing in the middle of a movie. Concord, Clayton Valley High School, LaBee Hall. A few years ago, four students met in a freshman English class, and they all shared a love for music and formed a band. In their senior year, the band was going to tour Southern California. Heading south on I-5, the driver fell asleep and veered off-road, which resulted in the death of all band members. The band can now be heard on the first day of school at night, where they met when they were freshmen. The band plays on. Concord Mount Diablo High School, reports of the apparition of a male teenager hanging by a noose from the roof over a balcony from the second floor part of the English building. Supposedly a depressed student who committed suicide there a long time ago. Also cold spots and voices and noises at night near the balcony and staircase where the student committed suicide. Corona Gravity Hill, a girl got dumped by her boyfriend and was driving real fast. There is a big bump in the street and she hit it and crashed into a tree and died. If you turn around and stop on the bump, her spirit pushes you PHIL. Handprints can be seen if your car is dirty. June 2008 at Gravity Hill is an optical illusion. Bring a carpenter's balance. It will measure the street going downhill. The reason you feel like you're going uphill is because of the angle of the slopes on each side of the road. In reality, your vehicle is rolling downhill. Corona Horse Thieves Canyon Road, reports of eyes burning, dizziness, and the feeling of being pulled to a wooded area where reports of black floating apparitions. A trail goes past water towers. After an hour of walking, a place for campfire is found. A solar circle of trees is present. When all lights are off, black apparitions can be seen going from tree to tree. They do not like bright flashlights. Those who possess the brightest are pushed, kicked, dust is kicked up, other noises are heard. Going in a small group is recommended due to long walk. On other parts of the trail, a blonde woman can be seen run between the trails. It never happens in same place twice. Extremely cold breezes flow past you at certain points. Corona Jelly Oak Steakhouse, a February 2004 update, formerly listed as El Cerrito Live Oak Inn as the story goes back in 1988. A young waitress named Michelle was strangled to death and left in the trunk of an old car behind the back patio of the inn. Rumor has it that, although the dishwasher is still doing time for her murder, it was actually the cook that committed the crime. Regardless of who killed Michelle and why, she still haunts Live Oak. The new owner doesn't mind and comments that people say she is a really nice girl, and even Shahi has never seen her but has had many complaints from customers that she continually flushes toilets close to closing time. Perhaps even more spine-tingling than Michelle's story is the fact that in the inn's earlier days, people were often hung from the twisted oak tree in front. If you look closely, you can see the tree growing RO and an old news. February 2004, additional info. A bartender waitress reports she is a witness to the rumors of Michelle the ghost and of the old owner, Larry, who shot himself in the office. She has worked there for almost a year, and Michelle has stopped flushing the toilet and started ringing the food bell constantly during all hours. She has seen shadows of her out of the corner of her eye when she is there alone. One of the cook's sons talks the ghost, but it is supposed to be a secret, and he can't tell us who he is talking to. He also sees a man in black who walks around. The noose is visible in the tree, and she says she has touched it to see what it was made of. It was almost rope-like wire, and it is grown into the tree. Corona Marie calendars. There are many stories. One night in the kitchen area, a few of the workers were doing side work and a few others were in the bar after closing, and a big metal pie cutter flew off a shelf onto the counter on the opposite side of the room a few feet away. There were now many witnesses who believed that strange things were occurring at our store. Servers reported trays flying at their heads in the dishwasher's area, and salt and pepper shakers, once empty, were full. The spookiest always happened to the vendors who cleaned the restaurant. The carpets would be cleaned on a monthly basis, and they would always come in pairs. Something would always happen, strange sounds, floating balloons, TVs being turned on. All of these things could be explained by scientific methods, electric currents and helium-filled balloons losing air. Whatever was going on in that building after the employees left was bad enough that the carpet cleaners would never come alone. On the occasions that they would come alone, they would come right at closing and be done before we would finish closing the store. On one occasion, a lone carpet cleaner decided he would do it by himself after the employees left the building, saying that all the stories were hogwash. The next morning, the opening manager found him in his truck in the parking lot with all of his carpet cleaning materials left inside of the building. He refused to step foot into the restaurant and complete the job. He wanted to get his equipment and get out. Seems while he was in the building, the entities played with him more than they played with anyone else. As he was shampooing the carpets, things were being written by a non-existent finger in the soap. Chairs were moved in the dining room, and salt and pepper shakers flew at him. The carpet guys from then on always came promptly at closing, and no one was left alone in the building. Coronado Hotel del Coronado. Various hauntings occur in the hotel and has been depicted on famous hauntings programming. On Costa Mesa Back Bay High School, there is a woman in the back of the school who screeches at night. No one is there. The Costa Mesa Estancia High School faculty has reported strange smells and being touched when no one else is in the room in the early morning. Night cleaning crews have told of flashlights beams being restricted to only a few feet in front of them in seemingly clear hallways. Covina Zelda's legend. In the early 1900s, a young girl around 15 was kidnapped and taken to an underground tunnel by a cult. The cult sacrificed her latter that night in the end of the tunnel. No one has ever made it to the end of the tunnel, and if they have, they never came out. The legend is if you make it to the end, the girl Zelda will sacrifice you to. City Covina High School reports of an odd moaning sound in the boys' locker room. Late at night after a soccer game, the whole team was chased out by a mysterious shadow-like figure. A soccer player reported that after the event, he was experiencing weird events. 20C7 New IC and Few Road. The on the site of passersby, but water considerably haunted by thunderstruck voice gives us that it was victory feeling now hotel on site, that the old site hospital on view always Crescent City, Sutter Crescent City. A worker at the hospital was in ICU when it was closed down due to lack of patients, so therefore it was empty. They were minding their own business when the patient call light and buzzer went off. When they walked to the empty room, the buzzer stopped, and the buzzer in the room 2 doors down went off. So they walked back to the nurse's station and the buzzer stopped. The buzzers can only be turned off from the nurse's station. They thought someone was playing a trick on them, but when they investigated, the whole place was empty. Crescent City, Tsunami Lane's old family-owned bowling centre was sold. New owners report during remodeling they could hear footsteps on wooden walk space behind pin setters. Crockett Old Road between Rodeo and Crockett. Every summer, if you are driving on this rodeo Crockett Old Road late at night, a woman in a white dress runs out into the middle of the road and tries to wave you down. But when you go to look in your rear view mirror, she is no longer there. It is said that her car broke down and she got hit by a car while trying to wave someone down. Cypress College Photo Department. A benevolent wraith called Foti lives in the main darkroom, most often seen standing by the westernmost enlarger. Usually the most sensitive students see his outline, which appears lighter than the surroundings, sometimes moving into the photo finishing room after closing and violently shaking the pictures hanging from the wall. Students report a feeling of calm and well-being during sightings, a marked change from the early days of the apparition when meter readings would be thrown off and equipment would explode in the studio. Students have also reported wildly unlikely results in the color and black and white darkrooms. It all began in the late 80s when a student brought in a human skull with a bullet hole in it to photograph in Studio 3. One night the chair of the department was alone late at night and heard pounding on the stockroom door when there was no one there to pound. Cypress High School, a performing arts building. In the performing arts building in the attic used to be where they stored the play outfits. It was said that a high school student was up there getting something and fell through the floorboards to her death, which was not a very big fall. Whenever you went up there, you could feel that someone is watching you. There was also a prop that was used in most of our plays, and whenever you looked into it, you could see her. She would look at you like she was mad. Because of what was going on up there, they had to move everything down to another room and sealed off the attic so no one else can go up there. There was a time that someone was pushed and almost fell down the ladder, which was used to get up to the attic, and cause of this, no one likes to be left alone in the performing arts building. Daly City is San Mateo intersection of Skylin Blov and Hickey Blov, and there are stories that a lady in white is seen at the intersection in their view mirrors when foggy. Davis Old City Hall Police Station. Davis PD moved to a new building recently after having been in the old City Hall that was built in 1938 or so. Downstairs, after it was vacated, in the women's restroom, there was seen a wild-haired, red-headed woman rushing toward the Zunzun stall door in an attack with outstretched arms and claw-like hands towards a person's face. Death Valley Junction and Magosa Hotel anomalies such as ecto mist and orbs recorded on film. Del Rey Cemetery, reports of cold spots. Moaning heard, the third tomb been light up at night. EMF detector was used and it went off like crazy. Delano Browning Road in Delano is known to have ghost hitchhikers. Devar Gravity Point, you take a road called Lynn Helenan until you pass 2 consecutive train tracks. When you pass a third set or tracks, you will have a stop sign about 100 feet in front of you. You have to go past to the stop sign and stop on the line. When the car is in neutral, it will roll uphill, increasing in speed. Devar Treehouse Fun Ranch. The place was being cleaned because of new owners. A worker decided to stay the night to get a very early start in the morning. That night he heard noises. The fire pit turned on all by itself. The lights flickered and shook. He decided to stay outside on the cement. The next day the other workers heard the story when they were cleaning up and in the bar, and they found an urn of an old truck driver who visited frequently. Diamond Bar High School. Many students feel that when you walk through the hallways alone, you will feel someone's hand on your shoulder, but when you look back, nothing is there, and when you look back, you'll see a girl in your face whose eyes are not there. Legend says that this girl was once a cheerleader in this school, and her boyfriend and some friends raped and killed her. Dinuba High School auditorium. Teachers have heard doors closing by themselves, lights turn on and off by themselves, being watched while walking down the halls, and feelings of being forced downstairs. Stories have been told that a janitor had been electrocuted many years ago. Dinuba High School, a football field. Years ago, a young girl broke up with her boyfriend and he began to stalk her. They decided to meet and he strangled her and left her under the bleachers. At that time, the bleachers had black plastic around the back because they stored equipment there. The girl's ex-boyfriend left her body there and it wasn't found for a week or so because it was mixed up with all the equipment. It's said that at night you can see her running across the football field. Disneyland, the Christmas shop. Some of the stock crew has reported a strange feeling when alone stocking the store for the morning. There is an old photo from the 19th century of a young woman up on one of the shelves. It has been documented several different times that a stock person will notice the photo frowning. Her photo is taken with a straight face at them along with a strange wind in the room. Disneyland, the Disney Gallery, which is above the Pirates of the Caribbean. Workers have reported that after park closing and in the early morning, they see a figure of a tall man walking around in the gallery. He is believed to be the spirit of Walt himself. Cold spots are also reported by numerous visitors. Disneyland Fire Station. Some employees heard footsteps at the 10th floor at night and someone knocked the door. The 10th floor is not open for public and it's been an empty room for several years. January 2006 additional information. The room above the Disneyland Fire Station was built as a place for Walt Disney to stay in while he inspected the park or did park business. It has all the amenities as a functional apartment for him. Disneyland Haunted Mansion. There are 3 spirits that are in the place all the time. Elderly man who died of a heart attack in August of 1970 before there was a first aid station on the west side of the park, an elderly woman and a young man who has quite a sense of humor. There is also something nasty in the ashes before the Omni movers exit into the graveyard. Witnesses report having hair pulled in the crypt exit area with no one in sight. Touched on the back by a hand in a car that ended up having no one in the car. Seen people walk up the portrait hall or grand staircase, stop and vanish. Faces peer from behind the corner at the top of the grand staircase. Heard footsteps on the false floor behind the load area when there is no one else there. Been touched on the face by unseen hands. Seen a man in the exit mirror. Disneyland. It's a small world. Lights have turned themselves off on by themselves as well as all the dolls moving without power. Disneyland, Matterhorn Mountain, the ghost of a woman named Dolly. She was crushed to death after she fell out of her sled and was hit by the sled behind her. Disneyland, Pirates of the Caribbean. The story goes that a young boy and his mom loved the Pirates of the Caribbean ride. The boy got cancer. His last wishes was that his ashes be spread over the Pirates ride. Disneyland rejected that for health reasons, but his mother did it anyway. At night, the ride operators can sometimes see a lone boy riding one of the boats on the video monitors, but when they check it out, there is no one. The Disneyland Sneal and Space Mountain, both the ride itself and the women's employee locker rooms are haunted by the ghost of Miftas One Way, a guest who died on the Space Mountain ride back in the 1970s. On the ride, he is described as a large man with reddish hair and a red face and has been seen by guests getting into a car with a lone rider, but he vanishes before the end of the ride. Disneyland, the Star Trader 4th floor stock room. Cast members have felt a cold, eerie wind on the 4th floor of the stock room when there are no doors, vents, or windows up there. Disneyland, the old people mover ride. It reports of operating girls, especially those with long blonde hair, would sometimes feel an unseen someone pull viciously at their hair. The boy died a few years ago on a grad night when he jumped out of the cabin of the people mover, got caught and dragged underneath the car. He grabbed desperately at his girlfriend's long blonde hair to save himself. Disneyland, Tom Sawyer's Island. The ghost of 1 or 2 people have been seen on Tom Sawyer's Island. At least 3 boys, all grad night victims, have drowned in the rivers of America. Disneyland, Tomorrowland reports of a menacing presence accompanied by cold spots. Dorrington Hotel, the original owner, Rebecca Dorrington Gardner, can be seen walking through the dining room. She frequently rings the motion detector. One year the owner decorated the rooms with fake Christmas trees and Rebecca knocked them over every night. She once warned the owner of a gas leak in the kitchen. There are also several other ghosts, including those of children. There are a lot of very curious customers at the restaurant, and wait staff encourages it by turning off lights when customers go to the restroom. Downey Hollydale Metal Hospital. In Downey behind the courthouse, there is an abandoned metal hospital, but for some reason there is light shining through when all the power has been shut off for years now. When you pass by, you see one curtain close, but then there is also one curtain that will close when you pass by. There has been people who have gone inside and gone downstairs. When they went downstairs, it was pitch dark, and suddenly books were being thrown at everyone there. Downey West Middle School, noise is heard in boys' locker room. You can hear locker doors slamming when all the boys leave to physical education, and showers turning on and off. Every once in a while you can hear the bathroom stalls flushing when no one is around. Downey Rio Hondo Hospital. This building was closed down about 5-7 years ago. Extreme hot and cold spots felt, screams heard, doors seemed to open and close on their own accord, and apparitions of people. September 2005 update: the hospital has been torn down and houses are being built on this site. Downeyville River Inn Resort, or Room Thiovetes, is supposedly haunted by one of the former boarders from when the inn was a boarding house. Reports of the water turning off and on by itself. Others have reported someone getting into bed with them or laying on top of them, only to find no one there. Dortis Spaghetti Factory. Employees of the Spaghetti Factory claim to hear children playing in the restroom areas in the basement. Dishes also fall to the floor, said to be the children playing games. September 2004 update: emblem on the entrance reads Dort High School 1904. It was originally built in the early 1900s as a high school, and in the 60s it was abandoned because Dort High School was built and everyone was sent there instead. Dublin Microdental Laboratories. The door at the reception desk keeps unlocking itself when a button behind the front desk is needed to unlock it. The door also appears to have someone push against it, try and get in even when nobody is there. Dublin, the Outback Steakhouse. Cold spots reported. There is a report of a police officer being killed there, possibly either right before the restaurant opened or right after the grand opening. There was a botched robbery and shootout. March 2004 edition. The Dublin police officer that was shot there on the night of Deck 11, 1998 was named John Paul Monigo. Please visit his memorial page. A Tipicida Vavuka Memorial, Orga 18 Monigo, and 3 men from the San Joaquin Valley, which is just over the Altamont Hills to the east of the Tri-Valley where Dublin is located, robbed the newly opened Outback Steakhouse and held patrons and employees hostage. Monigo was responding to a 911 call made from employees at the Outback when he was shot several times by one of the 3 men upon entering the restaurant. A short while later he died on the scene. His murderers were arrested and tried for murder. Dunlop Cemetery. Cold spots fought around some unmarked graves. Footsteps heard behind witnesses while walking through middle of cemetery towards entrance. 3 tall, shadowy figures of people seen standing by some big oak trees within the cemetery. Witnesses have recorded a strange voice chanting something over and over, and another voice that sound like an elderly man telling them, "Leave us alone, all of these activities happened all in one night." The voices were only heard on a tape recorder, reported the witnesses. Echo Park Charlie Chaplin Mansion. This affluent house sits upon a hill overlooking Echo Park. It resides in a neighborhood called Hathaway Hills. The story behind the house is that Charlie Chaplin used to own the house and sold it for whatever reason. In any case, a man moved in with his family, and soon after the house would lead to his and his family's demise. He came home from work one afternoon and killed his mother, his wife and children. People describe the house as a spooky and haunting location. Curious kids went to the house and saw the same Mercedes-Benz crashed into the garage with police tape stuck to the side of the house and front porch. It has been reported that one can see a mirror edge of the grandmother and hear the children screaming. There have been other reports of eerie sounds and sightings of wild animals, for example, a lion. Lastly, the house has a dark side and lighter side. Today one can see a single window with a table lamp on shining noticeably. The house is an old Victorian style. Also, it looks like the psycho house used in the actual film. East Highland, the Bethany House. The Bethany House is an old, abandoned, insane asylum, since it is far back in the orange groves. Many teenagers used to use it as a place to party around the asylum, but never inside. There have been many stories of hauntings there. One high school boy once went to explore the asylum by himself and never came back out. A ghost of a middle-aged woman has been seen on numerous occasions. She is extremely violent and known to do harm to people that cross her path inside the insane asylum, East Los Angeles, 4th State. School elementary, there was a 10-year-old boy who got locked in the little boy's room and left there overnight, found the next day strangled. His unexplained death still haunts till this day. There have been sightings of him playing in the monkey bars late at night. You can also hear him in the restrooms as boys and girls crying, trying to open the doors, screaming, "Please let me out." East Los Angeles Calvary Cemetery, basement of mausoleum, 4 slabs of marble create demonic vision. Please research. East Los Angeles Casa del Mexicano, caretaker of the place tells that there are 9 ghosts, and at nights when he stays at his room up in the 2nd floor, he hears somebody knocking at the door, footsteps coming up from the bottom, and that lights turn on by themselves. 2 people in a Christmas play saw a Mexican man with jeans, boots and a squared shirt sitting on top of one of the playhouse looking at them. They said that it felt cold in that part of stage, but that they continued with the play. East Los Angeles Evergreen Cemetery, witnesses say that things moving around at night and voices. East Los Angeles, across from Evergreen Cemetery, it was an apartment, now it's reconstructed. But apartment is still there. Chairs move, TV, radio turns on by itself, waters also. You can hear footsteps as if you were jumping off a bunk bed. You can see a black shadow with red eyes, it changes figures. You can feel things, it's a scary, unwanted feeling. You feel a lot of cold spots. East Los Angeles, Humphreys Elementary School, in the luncher restrooms in the 2nd floor. When you are in the restroom alone, you can hear the toilet in the left corner flush by itself. When you look at the toilet to see blood coming out of the toilet, and then the lights go off and on. And then you look again and there's nothing there, like if it never happened. East Los Angeles, Linda Vista Hospital, old abandoned hospital across from Hollenbeck Park on Chicago Street. People who go there have reported seeing lights and hearing a little girl laughing and playing around in there. Screams, cold spats, noises, cries, moaning, lights coming on and off. Noises could even be heard from the street at night with no one inside. Hospital is sometimes used for filming by production companies. A doctor has been seen on the main building corner window, top floor, looking out through the window. He was wearing a doctor's suit and a tie. Lights go on and off throughout the whole building. There is a room full of cages and a group of people claimed seeing a mentally ill patient ghost roaming inside a cage in that room. Strange noises are heard around the buildings. Cold and warm spots are felt in certain places. East San Jose's Pt.2 Hamilton View restaurant. This restaurant overlooked the entire Silicon Valley and has been known to light up on its own when nobody is there. Guston employees have seen lights flicker on and off in the dining area and known to see a young girl standing out on the lookout balcony. East San Jose's Quimby Road. This road is haunted by the Quimby jogger. He is said to be the ghost of a jogger that only runs at midnight. East Lake Chula Vista, Proctor Valley Road, haunted by a ghostly figure of a woman wearing a long white dress, is occasionally seen walking along the side of the road. People who have pulled over to offer a ride look back to discover she has disappeared. Edwards Air Force Base, Pt.2. There was a sighting of a slow-moving flying black apparition above Chapel 2 on Edwards AFB. 2 witnesses claim that the object was hovering 20 feet above the steeple of the chapel, and it changed direction following the 2 eyewitnesses. Once the witnesses arrived at work, they told 2 others about the flying object and went outside to see that it was still slowly making its way towards the flight line. It never changed altitude during the entire sighting and seemed to be on a direct course. The object made its way to the flight line and went out of sight as it worked its way away from the hangar where the witnesses were watching. This all happened on an early Sunday morning in May of 2007. Il Cajun, chase balls of light, strange smoke smells. This is so real, ghost hunters will flock. The pictures the submitter recorded may not amaze you, but they invite you to see what they see every night. The balls of light show every night. Centro Union High School, the gymnasium witnesses have reported that the high school's gym is haunted. Many times after school, a basketball being bounced as if someone was playing and accompanied by the sounds of fans cheering. No one really knows the origin of the basketball game. El Centro, Central Union High School library and library basement. Inside the actual library building itself, it is almost impossible to go a night without hearing doors slamming, soft to hard footsteps, and people talking in the rows in the back of the library. Also, the basement of the library is a dark, damp maze of rooms and hallways that was once used for detention back in the early and late 80s. It was affectionately called the dungeon for footsteps. Crying and laughing were often heard. El Centro Crest Theatre. At night the employees would be spooked by voices talking to them. Some nights when the sound system would be turned off, they would become alarmed by the sound system blasting music. There would also be many cold spots felt in this theatre. El Centro Dogwood RD. It is said that if you drive along this road after midnight, occasionally you will see a girl walking alongside the road. If you stop to give her a ride, she will get in, sit down, remain silent, and eventually dissipate. However, it is also said that if you do not give her a ride, she will sit on top of your hood and try to make you crash. Stories say she died in a grisly accident along that road. El Centro Imperial Valley Arts Council. The Imperial Arts Council, formerly the old post office pavilion, now head of the Imperial Valley Arts Council. This building is located on the center of the city of El Centro between the 5th and Brighton streets. The building has a beautiful architectural Baroque Italian Renaissance construction style built back in 1920, housing the local cultural events. A wide 800 square foot basement is found underneath, housing possibly a ghost or unexplained disturbance, according to the building's employees, who claim that early evenings loud noises are heard from the basement, like slamming of doors. Regardless, they every sound impossible to pooping, and spaces would be overhead, had sand and scratching noises on walls. It is claimed also that these disturbances may be the cause of hearing the tapping sound of an old typewriter as well. This would be an interesting story to investigate to prove its authenticity and determine if there is a haunting or if it is a poltergeist. The building is recorded as one of the most historical buildings in the state to be served. For more information, it is recommended to get in contact with the local El Centro Chamber of Commerce or City of El Centro Business Council. El Centro Old Fox Theatre. It was said that a man had died there, and when you would walk down the Azel, you could feel cold spots at about Azel 8 El Dorado Cemetery. After dark, you can see orbs, ectoplasm, it's said. There is a child's voice that is frequently heard. One report is of a teen couple who were just trying to get scared. The young man looked in the rearview mirror of his car and saw an elderly man leaning on the car looking in. The young man spaced off, stopping later to find handprints dragged across the trunk of his car. El Monte High. It is said that a young man hung himself in the school's auditorium in the early 1900s. Late at night, it is also said that the piano plays in the band room. In the daytime, strange happenings occur during drama practice. El Monte Lambert Park Gymnasium. There have been numerous accounts from employees and other people of a ghostly little girl in the attic of the gymnasium. Also, reports of an apparition of a man in the locker room. El Monte Mountain View High School. Late at night, people see shadowy figures running the track and playing football, and if you look carefully, there's a figure hanging from the goal post in the football field. Elk Grove, old downtown Elk Grove Boulevard. There are sightings of a woman dressed in white walking the streets, but when you turn back to look at her face, you see nothing but darkness or no face at all. People have said that she is seen walking up to the railroad tracks, then disappearing. Encino Bagel Noche Restaurant, formerly LA Cabaret, when it was the comedy club, 2 ghosts were reported. One was a pretty woman dressed in the 50s era, sitting in a corner booth in the back of the main showroom. She always seemed happy and fun-loving. The other was a man, usually in the kitchen area in the control room. One employee working late one night, closing the bar, and felt a presence which they associated with the male ghost. The sensation of impending danger grew in intensity within seconds, so that they ran out the front door. It is not known if he meant harm or was instead warning them of something, but they had never felt the feeling of being cold, the very cold, like they did then. Eureka High School Auditorium. Stories have been told of 2 restless ghosts that wander the auditorium. The first is of a man who fell from the balcony during the building's construction during the 20s and was decapitated. The second is of a young girl who, after losing the leading role in the school play of 1954, hung herself in the lighting booth in full view of the actress on stage. The actress took no notice of the wide-eyed corpse in the balcony and continued the show. Eureka, Fort Humboldt. Large, heavy objects moved across floor overnight, citing a former post commander who died of malaria in 1859, looking out window of old hospital building. Lights going off, objects falling. Occurrences regularly during 1993 and have been reported sporadically since 1950s. Fair Oaks, Sailor Bar, American River, a drowning victim in wet clothing approaches visitors. Many drownings have occurred here. Park ranger was locking the restroom for the night when this ghost appeared, wearing wet fishing clothes, then vanished. Fairfax Camp, both in it used to be an Indian reservation, then early in the 1920s became a hospital for tuberculosis patients. Now it is used as a Girl Scout camp, but it still has the original sinks from the hospital. You can hear a ghost of a nurse pushing her cart up and down the halls, moaning, screaming. Appearances and disappearances and some ancient Indians, spirits too. Fallbrook, Delos, Santa Margarita River Bridge. Many stories haunt the bridge. During the California Gold Rush, a small wagon train was killed at the river near the new bridge. In the early 1900s, the same year Fallbrook Union High School was first established. On the first prom night, 3 pairs of teens disappeared and were later found in the river. More than a dozen strange occurrences are in police reports regarding that area of the river. Once the sun drops below the mountains there, your life is in danger. Fallbrook, the Enterprise newspaper press room back in 1962. In the press room, a sick daughter of one of the press workers was pushed into the presses by an unknown force. To this day, an apparition of a small girl will pull on your pants if you get too close to the presses. Fallbrook, Jack in the Box. It's said that back in the 60s a bunch of hippies went crazy and brutally attacked and killed the workers. Now when the store closes you can hear the hippies' music and also the workers. Then really late at night when no one is there you can hear and smell the burgers grilling. Also the bathroom door open and shuts forcefully. When you look out the window you can see an appropriation of a worker cleaning the windows. If you pass by at 42234 the lights go on and you can see the people who died there. Fallbrook High School. Recently Fallbrook Union High School went through a thorough remodeling. Guess what made the front page news? A gravesite of what is believed to be a native Indian chief's grave was uncovered just to the right of the new library building. This happened in September 1999. Since then at night there have been numerous sightings of an orb or orbs, howls in the wind, the sight of a pack of coyotes running from the area towards the ditch just past the portable buildings, even sightings of a teepee. In 2002 there were 14 reports of smoke on campus. Never was there a fire, no one has been hurt by anything. Couple shaken up by a pack of coyotes one night after the 2004 Sadie Hawkins dance though. Fallbrook, Live Oak Park. In the park there is a couple of large boulders that were used by Indians to grind acorns. The acorns were then used to make a sort of bread. The many years of grinding made indentations into the rocks. The police department has over 24 reports of an Indian girl grinding acorns on these rocks. The reports all vary in time of day, but the description of the little girl is always similar. Fallbrook Masonic Cemetery. People have reported to touch some of the trees in the cemetery and they get a strong surge of heated energy, as they put it. Fallbrook Silvergate Retirement Center. During construction of a new wing in the center, along new voices of children, there were a few minor occurrences. There were also reports from guards of a powerful being presumed to be male. This spirit was very violent. One guard reported that it tried to force him over an opening from the 2nd floor to the 1st floor that now houses a fountain. Ferndale, the Hart Theatre. The ghost that haunts Hart Theatre is called Bertha and is often seen late at night. One report claims she takes the form of a phantom cat who strolls down the aisles during performances. Bertha also performs other tricks such as locking the bathroom door from the inside and answering the phone at night when no one is there. Fillmore, a sycamore tree. While driving at night around midnight, a woman dressed in white floats right next to you for about 1/4 of a mile right when you're driving by the sycamore tree. Legend has it she was hung there during the Mexican-American War. Fontana AB. Miller High School Theatre. Strange blue lights and many other occurrences. Sometimes there is banging from within the walls and tools ending up in weird places and no one knows how they got there. Many people say they have seen figures disappear and reappear and voices in the catwalk when no one is up there. Legend says that a teenage actress went up into the catwalk trying to fix a light for a tech buddy and fell off the ladder and died instantly. Fontana Bigelos, formerly PegSafe stores. This is the Bigelotti store located off Sierra in Futhelbelt. This store is haunted by several ghosts or spirits. Many employees claim to have experienced hearing noises in the men's and women's restrooms, things like something falling on the floor while being inside the one toilet stall and no one else inside the restroom, and also the lights being flicked off by themselves inside the restroom while in use. There have also been noises and voices heard coming from the break room when the lights are off and no one is in there. Another area which is considered to be the area with the most activity is the stockroom or warehouse. In there, several voices have been heard and noises of things falling inside, and things like a former employee trash the back claims into the walking, and that Archie's turn off. She and will her the looking back out. She her face was pull her hair out was out, and the warehouse and former employee who was taking the things for was the trash to walking was not working there. Several employees claim to be scared or nervous of walking into the warehouse at night. All these things happen at night when the stores and employees are cleaning up, or late at night when graveyard employees are there. None of the managers will support these accusations. The Fontana Itiwanda Intermediate School in the old auditorium next to what is now a cafeteria. There is a narrow staircase leading up to an upstairs dressing room. The room contains one window, and you will sometimes catch a glimpse of a young Indian girl standing at that window. The story states that this young girl of the 70s committed suicide by hanging herself and was found when someone of the staff spotted a body hanging through the window. Fontana Futhel Boulevard, formerly part of Route 666, between the cross streets Cherry and Citrus. A young man will appear wearing a striped shirt and carrying a long stick. He then crosses the street right as cars approach. When the car hits its brakes, the man disappears. Witnesses also claim to see the ghost walking along the right side of the road. He has a black dog at his side. Fontana Mango Elementary School. They say in back of the school there was a little girl who would go on a tree. It supposedly had a tree house before and would go on top of the tree when her parents would fight. That tree, they said, she would call her best friend until one day it was a windy day and she fell to her death. They say at night you can hear her crying for help, and sometimes you can see her fall of the tree. She wears a little white dress and straight hair. Fontana Maple Elementary is haunted by this man who stays at the school in the boys' bathroom and messes with the students and teachers during class time. Fontana Mary B. Lewis Elementary, the hauntings take place between 11 p.m. and 4 a.m. You can hear footsteps when there is nobody there, and in the bathrooms for both goers, and you can hear the distinct sound of a toilet's overflowing and even a conversation going on when both the bathrooms are locked. There are loud bangs in the night, and the whispering and the strange feeling of another presence is felt. Fontana Tokay Elementary, sounds of construction work at the school. Rumor is that a construction worker died when it was built. Fontana Sequoia Middle School, in the quad by the lunch tables there sits a little girl crying, bouncing a ball. She'll ask you to play with her, and if you say no, she will cry blood and start to follow you. This happens at sunset when there are no employees. Forest Falls, Fallsvale Elementary School. Many sightings of the ghost children have occurred over the years in the forest that surrounds the school and the fenced old school that remains on the same property. Most children who attend the school seem to accept their presence. It's not uncommon to hear the children address them by name. The old school, a great historical landmark, is securely fenced and prohibits any public admission. Fort Bragg, the entire area supposedly haunted. Custer was supposedly to have passed through Fort Bragg, and they say that he and his army traveled up a steep cliff at Pudding Creek. There's been sightings of his army to have been seen going up cliff at the Pudding Creek, and there is a path that leads to Wakarika, the ocean. It can walk walkways to Wakarika State Park. That has claimed we have seen a young lady in medieval clothing walking about searching for her lost lover who died in the Civil War, and they say she's been seen wandering around asking if anyone has seen her lover. Fort Bragg, Glass Beach Inn has a chair that has had eerie happenings. The lady that owns the inn has said that people had died mysteriously and not long after they had sat in the chair. Fort Bragg, Green Acres Park, witnesses report hearing humming like a person was singing. They kept humming the same verse over and over several times on different nights. They felt a strange chill. Fort Bragg, the Gold Coast Hotel, has a ghost. Three of the people who work in the hotel's bar area say that things like glasses have moved by themselves mysteriously. Fort Bragg, the Grey Whale Inn, formerly the Redwood Hospital, is said to be haunted by a lady. She is often seen roaming around in their garden areas, and there has been the sightings of a man who apparently appears in one of the windows. Foster City, Livy. About a year ago, a man was being chased by the police because he had just shot his co-worker, and then he stopped at the Livy, probably the area across from Beach Park Plaza. He shot himself and died there. Cold winds are known to brush past people, leaving the area around you absolutely clear. Gunshots have been heard late at night, and strange shapes and shadows have been seen in all parts of the Livy. Fountain Valley High School, sometimes at night in the 100 building. Screams of children are heard. Also, some days when opening the doors, the janitors find lockers open and all the students' belongings on the ground. 5 teachers have left the school since the poltergeist. Many students have seen apparitions of mutilated dead students in the bathrooms. Freedom, Hawthorne Lane. Back in the 1950s, a man murdered his wife and then supposedly disposed her body in Pinter Lake. Authorities never found her body in the house she was murdered in remained an untouched murder scene well into the late 1970s. The piano would play itself, and while inside the house you could hear a door or trunk slam and a car start, but when you went outside there was nothing except the 2 cars there, since the murder, which could not possibly run as grass, was even growing up through the floorboards. The house had cold spots near the closets where the woman's clothing still hung. Fremont, Bay Street Salon. When 2 of the stylists were the only ones in the salon, the bathroom door would lock somehow, and they would have to retrieve the key and unlock the door. The toilet would also flush automatically and is not an auto flush toilet. Salon was previously a fire station and a slaughterhouse. Fremont, Lord Bradley's Bed and Breakfast Inn. Noises in the dead of night, heavy footsteps and apparitions. The former owner's daughter would see figures wearing Victorian-style clothing. Fremont, Morrison Canyon Road. When you go down the canyon road, you will find an off-ramp that will lead you down to a creek. That is if you can drive all the way down the road. As you go down the road, you begin to hear knocking, and at about halfway down the road, you will start to hear a small boy laughing. Story tells that a young boy was killed in the basement of a cottage at the end of the road. He was found by his parents hanging from the rafters. When his parents called the cops, they told them that there was no body in the house, but mass amounts of blood washing up at the creek banks. Legend tells that if you make it down the canyon, you can still see blood washing up on the creek banks and hear a young boy laughing. No trespassing of Fremont, Mission San Jose. Built in the late 1700s, Mission San Jose has had a lot of curious history. A fire destroyed the original mission, and the 1906 earthquake leveled the old church. Both have been rebuilt. The church about 12 years ago and the mission in the 1800s. There are cold spots and mists in the mission itself, uncanny feelings and mists in the courtyard by the fountain. An old cemetery adjacent to the church is the site of many disturbances, including unexplained whispers and crying, as several Vermont pioneers are buried here, as well as countless natives. Also in the church itself, where there are graves in the floor in the sanctuary and in front of the altar, severe cold spits are felt near the graves. Across the street from the mission sits an historic tavern, where witnesses say they have seen several native-looking people in old clothing cross the street and disappear as soon as they enter the courtyard of the mission. Fremont Alone Burial Grounds. You can't enter the grounds because it is fenced off, but you can read a large plaque designating it as an Alone Burial Ground. Orbs have been photographed. It is down the road from Mission San Jose, which is very haunted. The Ohlone Indians who died at the mission are buried here. Fremont Ohlone College. In the women's bathroom in Building 3, there is the ghost of a woman wearing a blue 60s-style dress. She appears in the mirror. Fremont Washington High School to Old Senior Hall. The rest of the school was recently rebuilt, but the Senior Hall is part of the original plan. Students in there at night, including myself, have reported hearing more than one set of footsteps in the hall, even though they are the only ones in the hall. Fresno, adorable poodle salon. This shop had a lot of poltergeist activity when she was there. Large heavy plants that needed 2 people to move would be moved when the owner arrived in the morning. When no one but her had access to the shop, she hired a young woman to wash dogs for her, and the entity really took a liking to her. One day my mother was taking a break when she noticed this girl working on a dog and periodically brushing her hand away from her neck as if shooing away a pesky fly. The owner watched for a while as she continued to do this, not seeing anything there, when suddenly, quite annoyed, this girl said, "Would you please knock it off?" The owner asked her what was wrong, and she replied, "Your damn ghost won't stop kissing me on the neck." It stopped kissing her after that. The owner reported cold spots, lights on and off, doors opening and closing by themselves, and a general feeling of being watched when alone in the building. Fresno Muex home, this museum, is claimed to be haunted by several spirits. It is believed that most of the haunting is done by the Muex family. There are others whom state different. Fresno Pindale Ave, this street is haunted by the Sunday Adi wife of Pindale, who has been seen at night and believed to, for no apparent reason, throw sand in the eyes of people walking by. When they clear their eyes, they see that she has vanished. The spirit is believed to look like an old Spanish lady carrying a small tote bag. Fresno Raymond, there is a haunted seasonal fire station in the town. The station was closed and lights came on inside, a door that would constantly come open. Fresno San Joaquin River, this ghost pretty much have been sighted along the whole river, but mostly the Highway 99 overpass by Herndon. A lady and her 2 kids were swimming in the river back in the 1950s when her kids were kidnapped, not too long after she allegedly died of sadness. Now her brightly white-colored spirit can be seen walking on top of the water in the river calling for her children. Some say she has the voice of the wind, and the Mexican-American community named her the IBRNA. Fresno St. John Hall, the basement is haunted by a nun who appears in numerous of times. Fresno, the Vendo Company, this is a building that has existed for at least 100 years. Before it was Vendo, it was Pindale Military Base, and before that it was a lumber yard, and in the beginning it was Japanese concentration camp. In the mezzanine you get the feeling of someone putting their hands on you, grabbing you ankles. Near the cooling tower, a Japanese woman with half of her face rotted off has been seen sitting on a green bench that is by a plant entrance. The main building is where they were held and tortured. In what now is receiving is where they were processed and killed. There are many bodies buried in the ground that were never removed. Sounds of choking, whispering, calling out for help. There is a bathroom upstairs that a Vendo employee hung himself in 7 years ago, is still there as a ghost till this day. No one will use the restroom. Fresno Roosevelt High School. This school has 2 ghosts. One boy committed suicide in the boys' restroom in the East Hall. Then a boy fell to his death in the auditorium while doing a presentation. These 2 boys haunt the school. Fresno Tyler Street House, this modest home has been the scene of terrifying poltergeist activity since the mid-80s and continues to this day. This house has had over 22 different occupants since the phenomenon started. Some have reported seeing red eyes peer out through closets and darkened bedrooms. Objects fly off countertops, and there has been a bludgeoned body of a cat has been found time after time in the upstairs closet, found by each resident that even as live here if they do not own a cat or any animals. Fullerton, Albertson, sometimes when all workers leave, cans of food come flying off the shelves, leaving a huge mess for the workers to clean up. Also, there has been sightings of an old man with a cane who moans and groans. As it stares you in the face, it fades away. Fullerton, Cal State Fullerton dorm. Saw small green glowing balls around TM sometimes. Heard tapping on the wall adjoining to the room next door when everyone in the apartment was gone. Heard noises such as dishes clattering, taps and knocks, voices. When nobody else was home, always had the feeling that someone was watching you from behind, but nobody was ever there. Fullerton Melody Inn on the southeast corner of Harbour and Commonwealth, where the old Melody Inn was destroyed by fire in the 80s. An image of the former owner's father appears with a box of matches. The ghost of Mr. Melody has actually been known to provide a light of a smoke to customers outside the new businesses and then smiles and vanishes. Fullerton, The Fox Theatre Building. The old Fox Theatre Building is rumoured to of Michael O'Donnell's ghost guarding the kids in the neighbourhood from violence. Michael O'Donnell was the son of travel agency founder Dorothy O'Donnell, who had a troubled life with substance and drink, but a genuine love people, especially kids in a rough area. He is said to be seen in the lobby of the theatre and sometimes leaning against a wall reading a book. Fullerton Phi Kappa Fraternity House. The spirit of a little girl who was murdered in the ravine next to the house has been said to wander the house at night, sometimes turning on water taps, turning on and off lights, opening and shutting cabinets. Sometimes her laughter is heard in summer afternoons. Fullerton Plummer Auditorium. The tunnels that run underneath Fullerton are accessible from Plummer Auditorium as well as other spots in Fullerton. Many people will tell you of the tunnel ghosts. These people are from many different eras. One gentleman from WBU is said to follow visitors towards the exits. When they reach the final exit lights, he vanishes. Fullerton Ralph's store. A former worker reports boxes moving on their own old spots. Fullerton Stadium Tavern. A ghost inhabits the basement tea cellar, often calling names of workers cleaning up after hours, and has been seen reported by many. Garden Grove High School. Rumor has it that the ghost of a girl named Lizzie haunt the Heritage Hall in the building. It was reported that in 1933, while Lizzie was exiting from the building, the Long Beach earthquake took place and pieces of the building fell on top of her. Lizzie was crushed and died instantly. Janitors and teachers of the school reported hearing voices, doors slamming, even apparition of a girl in a dress while working there at night. Garden Grove High School building believed to be haunted by Lizzie. Reports say she has turned on the alarms and has also tripped and pushed people down the hall. When they opened up the trap door underneath the building, they could see footprints in the 2-inch thick dust walking into the dark. The earthquake is now just a 1-story building, where the 2 former stairwells used to be are just blacked out skylights. Rumor is that the bottom halves or the original doors are still attached to. Garden Grove Midnight Adult Books. Supposedly a man was stabbed during a bad drug deal back when the property belonged to a nightclub. 3 adult bookstores, all owned by one company, sit next to each other where the club used to be. Employees have reported sightings of a man in a cowboy hat who has a tendency of entering occupied video booths and not being there when the clerks react, since no more than one person is allowed in a booth at a time. Also, the stores experience odd noises at night and have the odd object fall off of shelves, as well as shadowy shapes moving about every now and again. Georgetown American River Inn, haunted by the ghost of an old miner. Georgetown Fire Department Station 61. A man from the mining days of Georgetown was captured on digital camera. Standing near the historic fire department building, he smiled happily and pointed at the map on the building's side while volunteer firefighters practiced ladder drills. Georgetown Hotel woman who lost her lover committed suicide in the minor days and jumped from the upstairs balcony. She is still reported to be seen in the upstairs rooms. Gazerville Warm Springs Fish Hatchery. Reports of an elderly Indian couple roaming the grounds. The main building was haunted by a ghost, a woman who called the employees names and changed the radio station. 4 houses there had their own encounters with ghosts. The shower came on all times, day or night, in one house. One of the other houses reportedly had a spirit of a child that climbed in the bedroom. Juroy Bonfanti Gardens. At night after the park is closed, workers have seen a small carousel in Claudia's garden turn on all by itself. Lights, music, everything. Gilroy Chick-Tac Adams Interpretive Park. Chick-Tac Adams Interpretive Center on Watsonville Road is the site of an Indian burial grounds now buried under the asphalt parking lot. Drivers have reported that at night while driving by that the air conditioners in their cars will suddenly turn on and blast cold air upon them. There are trails to take through the park to see ancient rock carvings made by the once native Alone tribe. This was once the main village for the area. Juroy Hiron 52, a blood alley. There have been numerous sightings of a woman searching for her child, hearing the sound of a stagecoach and the snorting and breathing of horses, and a rumor that a woman was killed by a truck driver and she appears in the passenger seat of the truck, screams, and then vanishes. Juroy Minty. Madonna State Park mansion ruins and surrounding area are haunted by former owner Henry Miller and daughter. Daughter has been seen in open fields riding a horse. She was killed on sight while riding a horse. She fell and broke her neck. There has been ghostly visions on horseback and mist seen floating in hills for decades. Also reported. An unidentified man called the kiosk at the park to report this strange sighting to park employees. He stated that he and a companion were driving down Pole Line Road, which runs through the park, at about midnight. Alongside the wooded road, a girl in a long white prom dress was walking. Gilroy Old Gilroy Hotel. There are two ghosts that haunt this building, a woman in her 20s and a little girl. Story goes, when the building was a hotel, a man went in and raped and killed two people. The woman is seen at the top of the stairs, and the little girl is seen in the hallway. Footsteps are heard. The electric piano's keys are struck. When it is not plugged in, lights go on and off. The little girl is sometimes seen looking out the window. One employee recalls being touched on the neck by one of the ghosts. Doors rattle as though someone is locked inside and can't get out. Gilroy Southley Jerta High School. Inside Old Royal Building, in the hallway, footsteps were heard by the night shift employees. Upon investigation, no one was located in or around the area. Glen Ellen Wolf House. Jack London's house. The feeling of the place was one of dread. Visions of seeing the house in flames and hearing cries for help. Glen Ellen Railroad Crossing. It's said that in Glen Helen by the railroad tracks, if you put your car in neutral with your car, not facing the railroad tracks, and wait 2 through 3 minutes, it is said that the ghosts of 6 kids will start your car slowly at first. Then, with a rapid speed, they will try to get you to the tracks. If you try to stop, it is difficult if they have gained their full speed. You can verify this by driving to the nearest gas station, and if you look closely you can see their little handprints. Glendale Brand Park. The park used to be the estate of the Brand family, with the library having been the mansion they lived in. There is a trail behind the house leading up into the hills. If you follow it, it will take you to the family cemetery. Mr. Brown's Tomb is a large pyramid where occult activity is pretty common. Also, further up in the hills is what looks to be a 3-foot-tall stone watchtower. Glendora Bennett Home. It belongs to the Daughters of the American Revolution, and after having purchased the residence in 1982 at their first monthly tea, they all reported having seen the apparition of a lady whom was a former resident in the early 1910s. Glendora High School. A boy student in the mid-90s left a suicide note to his parents early in the morning, and he brought a gun with him. On a foggy morning, the boy shot himself on the blacktop straight across from the boys' locker room where the portable classrooms are. One teacher who used to teach in one of those classrooms said from the corner of his eye he saw a boy sitting in the desks, and when he looked up the boy was not there. When the teacher went on break, the teacher, who was in the class next to us, asked, "What was all that banging in your classroom?" After that, the teacher knew that something was up and found out his old classroom location on the location where the boy shot himself. Glendora War Mart. This War Mart is said to be built on an Indian burial ground, and the story appeared in the local newspaper. And employees working in the garden centre heard the door alarm went off about 10 times and felt cold gusts of air through the room. There were only 3 workers there with the doors closed, and all of them experienced the same thing at the same time. Gorman School. Rumors that a little girl had died on the land some time ago. When they built the school, they built the cafeteria over where she was buried. The exact spot where she was buried, it is said that the cement never dried and is always wet. She also has fun with the kids and teachers there. Sometimes she has been seen running around the school. Granada Hills, a 118 freeway eastbound. Apparitions of a family of 4, so mom, dad, 2 kids each standing at the side of the freeway, all looking lost and forlorn, but with no broken down car in sight. When you pull up to help, they are gone. Grass Valley, the Holbrook Hotel. The downstairs reception hall is said to be haunted by spirits that drag chairs across the floor, turn lights on and off, and voices are heard when no one is down there. The hotel was built in the 1800s and has hosted presidents, actors, and was at one time a brothel. Arletta Douglas supposedly haunts the dining room named after her. Many of the hotel rooms are haunted by former guests who made the hotel a second home. Grass Valley, Jack in the Box. People that had worked there for years say that odd things happened at night there, but the submitter to the haunted place passed it off as hazing the new girl. There's one ghost they call the Miner. He liked to turn off the soda fountain at the drive-thru during busy times. They have also heard children's laughter in the lobby after the doors are locked. Offerings of toys left on the tables are moved or disappear. They also looked up one night and saw their reflection in the window, along with the indistinct reflection of someone standing behind them, but no one was there when they turned around. A February 2004 update. The Jack in the Box has been leveled and rebuilt. Grass Valley North Star Mine Lodge was converted into a Christian boarding school in the 1960s. It was shut down in the mid-80s. Doors opened and closed by themselves, drastic temperature changes, pictures flew off walls, windows opening and shutting. These events were witnessed by quite a few of the other students, often by groups of us. At one, temperature changes and things flying off the walls seem to occur at the same time. September 2004 update. Someone has bought this lodge and is planning to restore it and open it as a lodge again, but it is heavily guarded now and it's not a good idea to go up there anymore. Grass Valley, the round room. Proceed past the fairgrounds 5 miles to the dumper, left on next road to Wolf Mountain, and take it to a 104 mile before you see a dead end at the top of the mountain. Sharp left on short dirt driveway, you will reach the round room. Supposedly an old water tank, this place has been a local legend for many years. Cold spots and apparitions reported. The acoustics inside will amaze you. Story goes that Anton Lavey, a founder of Church of Saturn, moved his commune here in the late 60s and held seances and rituals in this room for several years. All inquiries made by the submitter of this haunted place to validate this through the Church of Satan were denied, and was told they had no knowledge of such events. However, the locals that have been here forever swear it to be true. Whatever the veracity of its history may be, the round room has a deep and pervading negative presence. And be careful, there have been several murders there over the years, reportedly by people in white robes, blood found but no bodies. Truth taken to the grave, please be safe. Groveland, the Groveland Hotel, the bed and breakfast, is haunted by the ghost of an old miner named Lyle. Lyle died in his sleep in his own room and hasn't left since. You can stay in Lyle's room at the Groveland and possibly have your makeup thrown off the dresser or the water faucet turning off on mysteriously. Lyle does not like people, especially women, in his room. March 2005, correction, does really like people and loves to play with them. He just abhors women's cosmetics on his dresser and will move them over to the sink. He wanders all around the hotel and can be found watching over the chef and popping open the convection oven doors when the bread is perfect. The chef forgot to set the timer. He will take a shower when no one is watching but the water is running. He watches over guests as they are falling asleep and checks to make sure everything is okay. Reported by guests in room 9. Created a hair-raising experience for a group of 18 guests on a fem trip from the UK by dimming the lights in the dining room several times, then sending a sharp chill from the ceiling, causing everyone in the room to gasp. Gurneville, Mays Canyon Road. The stories began around June of 1991. One night a young man was driving along Mays Canyon Road when he thought he spotted a woman standing in the middle of the road. She appeared suddenly. At first he believed he'd hit her, but later realized he'd passed through her figure with his vehicle. Not long after, perhaps a few months, a girl who had no knowledge of the previous sighting was walking along the road at twilight when she encountered a woman walking the opposite direction. The woman asked the girl if she knew some of the other boys who took walks down Mays at night time, and the girl replied that she did. They chatted briefly and parted ways. Later, it was discovered that her description of the woman matched that of the woman who had been run over. Because so many people have described dangerous or frightening experiences on Mays Canyon Road, many of the details were chosen to be left out. The submitter realizes this is frustrating, but they believe Mays can be a dangerous place and don't want to cause anyone else to become hurt by visiting the site and playing with the energies that are present. Always use extreme caution. Half Moon Bay, Highway 92, and driving up 92 and near Skyline Cemetery at around 3:00 a.m., you will feel a cold hand on your shoulder. When you look in your rearview mirror, you'll see a woman sitting in your back seat. It is said that she was killed in an automobile accident in the 70s. They say she's looking for a ride home. Humford, Bastille, now a bar, used to be a jail. People died in there and now tend to haunt the bar and frighten the cooks in the kitchen. New stairs leading to the bathroom become old and frail on occasions. Hanford Calvary Cemetery, there is a mausoleum in that cemetery that opens up every Friday. People and tourists come to see the strange building. They come to visit friends, family, and to look around. And there has been some feelings of strange entities in the mausoleum. Voices that claim people here over 40 sightings, 7 years. There's old and see strange spirits, spirits. Them there for Oakwood to see the neutral lens. The picture that you won't know was the twin since then, so it's the early 60s, the spirit entities there, and take a check when they come to what you catch. Hanford Civic Auditorium. When first entering the Civic Auditorium, there can be felt very cold breezes that pass by even when all windows are closed. In the boys' bathroom, there can be heard men talking about legal issues when no one is around, and occasionally a lawyer in an older style brown suit and rugged briefcase can be seen on Christmas Day. Windows with latches come undone by themselves, and the windows will open and close and relatch on its own. Within the auditorium itself, ghosts can be seen on the upper balcony watching an invisible show. The most noted person was a man in a black suit with a white shirt on. He has dark brown hair and brown eyes with a black mustache. He is often seen applauding for an invisible show, and once done applauding, he vanishes. Hanford, the old Hanford Sentinel building. Not much is known about the old Hanford Sentinel building now, but it is said that a ghost inhabits the building. People said they sometimes hear noise in the building. Hanford Owen Inn, a restaurant, the Owen Street Inn, is home to at least 3 ghosts. There are occasional slamming of windows, moving of bed sheets, switching on and off lamps. Sometimes ghosts can be seen in the dining area and on the second floor. Hanford, Irwin and Bush intersection, sights of an old man in a chair, back in the hallway booming and laughing sounds and flickering lights, creaking on stairs when you're not around them. If you go to the second floor, you will see and hear ghosts and feel cool winds. Hanford Kings River Bank, a ghost has been seen by the workers. Hanford Old Mental Hospital on Owen Street. The ghost of the head nurse can be seen pacing on the front porch. If you sit on the front steps, she will come out and talk to you and then ask you to leave. There is no power going into the house, but a white light can be seen through the front window and a red light through the back porch window. These windows are not aligned, so it is not the same light. Harbour City, Harbour Park, Duck Pond. It's been said that at this park you can sell your soul to the devil, and as a matter of fact, it's been also said that there was a Grap Singer that sold his soul and became real famous. They say that the devil comes to you in the best of manner and has a very pleasant smell. Hawthorne High School, in Inman Hall you sometimes see an old woman in black wandering around there. And also lights go off and on mysteriously. In the girls' bathroom by Building 17, you can hear the sounds of a girl weeping. In the same bathroom, the toilets flush and the water turns on and off. Hawthorne Belvedere Beach General Cinema Theatre, it is no longer used. The stockroom could not be kept clean. Boxes would always be opened, overturned, and or dumped on the floor. The faucet would turn on and off by itself behind the concession stand. You could feel someone brush past you and bump into you as you were working, and the cabinets would be padlocked at night and would be open in the morning with the contents dishevelled and strewn about. Hayward Carl State University, ghosts are seen near Robinson Hall around 10 p.m, a male and female who are not shy. The female is said to wear a Little Bo Peep costume. Hayward General Cinema South, and the theatre is haunted by George. He haunts Theatre 4 and 5 and the upstairs. March 2008 update, he has been torn down. 3 restaurants have recently been built on that location across from the mall. Hayward Plunge. In the late 1960s, a swim coach who taught at the indoor pool next to the Memorial Park kidnapped all of his kids that he was teaching and led them to this creek that is alongside the trail in the back of this park and left them there. Told them to wait, that he'd be back. The kids stayed there all night until there were no more people around. The swim coach returned and murdered them in the woods and left their bodies in the creek. It is said that if you walk through the park at night time up the trail about 200 yards, you will witness many strange things. Many rock slides will occur in strange spots. You will find yourself in cold spots and see dark shadows. As you reach the circle clearing, stop and listen for a few minutes. You will hear the children's footsteps all around you, some laughing and running. Some crying and pleading for your help. Haywood Lone Tree Cemetery faces have been seen in the bushes. Strange noises heard inside the graveyard. Things have been moved from headstones to unexplainable places. Whispering and thumps heard when walking through the main part of the cemetery. Lights flash and bells chime. Strange movements and dark shadows in the distance. A few orbs have been seen with the naked eye. Many came out on the camera. Strange noises heard on the video when played back. Haywood, Southland General Cinema, a former employee named George, is said to haunt the upstairs and theatres 4 and 5. Children sometimes come out crying, saying they saw someone when there was no one there. The theatre is no longer open. Haywood, Vic Hubbard's, an employee, was killed by a dropped engine block. Some employees say he haunts the warehouse behind the shop. Haunting includes clowning on rices, stealing or Tetzer lights at Hillsburg Madrona Manor. This Victorian-era hotel is the home of a ghost that lives in one of the ground floor rooms. A little girl does no harm and her history is unknown. Old Heber Schoolhouse noises such as stumping eraser banging are heard especially at night, before the windows were completely broken off. There was one front window that was broken in the shape of a woman. Hemet High School Theatre. The resident ghost of the theatre, Christine, has left messages on the walls and on the roof. She has also been seen on stage and in the backstage areas. Usually she is personified as a white blurry figure that people see wandering the stage. Hemeti San Jacinto entire valley. In the late 1800s, the San Jacinto Valley, Hemet and San Jacinto, was the home of Ramona and Alessandro Helen Hunt Jackson. When Alessandro was shot and killed, Ramona cursed the valley, saying that no one born here would ever be able to leave. There were only 3 roads out of the valley back then. A 4th was added in later years. To this day, anyone born and raised in the valley that has left by way of one of the original 3 hike-sits has said to experience an irresistible urge to return, and once they do, they end up in a financial position preventing them from leaving again. But those who have left by way of the 4th route manage to stay gone. He met Santa Fe Menlo Cemetery. Strange lights have been seen, accompanied by strange electrical feelings. Hermosa Beach Prospect Street School, now used as storage for the city. Witnesses have reported hearing little children's voices, but the school has long been closed. Highland Park, Franklin High School. Reports of the apparition of a girl in white. Hollywood, Laurel Canyon. There have been numerous reports over the years regarding an intersection on Laurel Canyon. On several occasions at the intersection of Laurel Canyon and Lookout Mountain, people have witnessed an old carriage pulled by white horses that seems to dart out onto the canyon road from Lookout Mountain as those are at a full speed gallop, only to disappear, causing car accidents. Hollywood, All-Star Cafe. There have been many sightings of spritz in the All-Star Cafe. In the ladies' vanity room, there have been cold spots and lights flashing out of nowhere. There were also a few sightings of a little girl and boy running around the cafe and suddenly disappearing. Hollywood Beechwood Drive Apartments. Ghost of an old man is seen walking the central staircase. Hollywood Cateau Marmont, famous hotel from the 20s that has been home to every legend from Howard Hughes, Marilyn Monroe, Boris Karloff. Jim Morrison, of course, is famous for site of John Belushi's death. Every kind of phenomena has been witnessed here. Hollywood Il Capitan Theatre. Suicide in balcony seats. Energy from suicide seat felt. Weird evil feeling in downstairs lobby at night. Old manager died in office, and now gone Disney cannot get rid of sighting of ghost manager, so they walled off window where ghost was seen from the street. Above entryway doors. Projected ghost seen. Hollywood Il Compadre restaurant. There have been sightings of 2 ghosts who walk near the piano after closing. The bar is also haunted by some unknown presence by the large mirror in the wall. Hollywood Forever Cemetery. This cemetery is mainly used to bury old stars of the silver screen. One such star is visited by a lady in black. She has been reported to take Valentino, the heartthrob actor of the silent 20s era, exactly 2 long, stemmed red roses. She is never disturbed and walks into the mausoleum at night, every night. This is one ghost that can be counted upon to be seen. Hollywood High School. A young boy that goes by the name of Toby committed suicide after his girlfriend left him for someone else. Many teachers and students have reported hearing doors open and close by themselves, loud hammering, objects moved from one place to another. a shadow roaming around the auditorium where he hung himself from, and unexplained sounds coming from the second floor. Another young man reportedly drowned in the pool and has been seen walking around the gym hall and pool. Hollywood Man's Chinese Theatre. Noises heard near the employee's locker room. Flickering lights. People believe it to be the spirit of a worker that hung himself in the early 1900s. Hollywood sign and Griffith Observatory. 2 people have committed suicide of the Hollywood sign, and there have been many sightings of weird-looking figures and lights by the sign late at night. From the Griffith Observatory, you can see the sign very well, and employees there have reported sightings of ghosts by the sign. Hollywood, Immaculate Heart High School. Sometimes individual students see the shadow of the nun when the closets open in the drama room. The sound of footsteps on the stage has been reported. One technician has claimed to feel a cold breeze sweep across his neck while on the catwalk. Hollywood KCT studio. It has been said that a woman and 2 children haunt one of the studios. My father used to work there. He would come back for lunch and things would be moved. For example, the big rolls of heavy wire that cannot be moved by even 1 or 2 people. They came back one time to find a wooden beam props moved from one side of the studio to the next. Impossible. He also said things would drop dangerously close to his head. Hollywood Man's Chinese Theatre. The ghost of actor Victor Killian roams the sidewalk here, looking for the man who murdered him. There were odd things that happened in the main theatre. Between shows, when workers would be cleaning the auditorium, they would often see out of the corner of their eyes black shapes that would fall from the ceiling. Upon investigation, there would be nothing there. Also, random times women and employees wouldn't want to go down into the women's restroom. They would begin to feel odd and then change their minds about going down the stairs. Hollywood Mulholland Drive, Errol Flynn's former estate. Residents in the neighbouring homes have reported lights of all shapes and colours on the property, and noises of that of a social gathering or gala party going on. The most active month is usually August, when these noises are heard on almost a nightly basis. Very amusing considering that all that is left of the home is the foundation and a tennis court. Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel. A stop at the Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel is a must, as at least 2 famous and several not so famous ghosts reside there. The hotel's most famous haunting concerns a mirror which sits outside the elevators on the hotel's lower level. The mirror originally was part of the furnishings in a room which was frequently used by Marilyn Monroe. Several people have reported seeing the tragic actress image reflected in the glass of this particular mirror. Hollywood, the Comedy Store, was once a famous nightclub and restaurant in the 30s and 40s, and the basement is said to be haunted with an evil entity. Hollywood Tordeo Building. Apparently a worker back in the 70s committed suicide in the building. Lights turn on and off. Things move on desks, sometimes even disappearing when no one is watching, and chairs roll around on their own. Security guards for the facility confirm that some nights a figure can be seen roaming the halls, and a quiet, mumbling voice is often heard throughout the facility. Tordeo is a final dub stage for the film industry and has been around since the 60s. Hollywood Universal Studios. Lon Chaney's ghost is often seen running in the catwalks above the stage. He is often wearing a phantom-like cape. He usually lets his presence be known by opening and closing doors, flickering lights off and on. One strange event that happens is the tinkling of a chandelier that was removed from the set years ago, one of the original props from the movie. Hollywood Universal Studios. A Back to the Future ride employees will clean the area and close doors to the ride rooms. A few minutes later they will go back to find candy wrappers on the floor and doors opened. Employees also experience cold spots. An employee stated a little girl died on the ride due to an illness. Hollywood Vogue Theatre, built in 1935 and opened as an 800-seat movie theatre in 1936. 9 entities have been documented since of 1997. 6 children, an adult female and 2 adult males. Entities are extremely active and communicative, allegedly including one particular spirit identified as Fritz, a projectionist at the theatre who died in the projection booth. Other ghosts here include a maintenance engineer as well as a school teacher and her students who were killed almost a century ago when Prospect Elementary School, which used to stand on the site, had burned down. The Vogue has been featured on numerous network TV broadcasts, and it is claimed that most film crews have had paranormal experiences inside the Vogue. 66675 Hollywood Boulevard, east of Highland, Hollywood, Wattles Mansion. There used to be a bus stop right in front of the property, but it had to be moved because there were many complaints of screaming and mysterious sounds of horses galloping and whinnying all night long. An apparition of a woman has also been seen on the grounds at night. Hollywood Walks Museum. During a trip to the museum, there were people there that were saying that they felt cold spots, lights going off and on, and voices right by the Last Supper. Humboldt, Eureka, Granada Convalescing Hospital, October 2007. This submission has been removed. Huntington Beach, Balsa Shika wetlands. An apparition of a boy about 11 to 13 years old dressed in all white has been seen around a bomb shelter, and when spotted he will run around a corner and disappear. Huntington Beach, Edison High School. At night, when driving by the Edison track on Magnolia Street, strange lights can be seen dancing around the baseball field, as well apparitions of what to appear to be people on the back soccer field. In the boys' locker room in the early morning, showers turn on and off on their own, plus lockers rattle and bang. Huntington Beach, Ethel Dwyer Middle School is said to be haunted by the ghost of Ethel Dwyer, a woman who went to school there as a girl and was then a teacher there as well. When one drives by the school, they can often see lights on in various rooms where none should be on, and strange, paranormal sounds are sometimes heard coming from the school boiler room. Huntington Beach High School. Young man named George hung himself in the middle of a play in the auditorium. If he doesn't know you will be performing, he will play tricks on you or hurt you. Performers must sign a paper and put it where his rope is. If the rope is removed, the next play will be ruined. Sets have fallen, been broken, and then disappeared with no way to take them out in the first place. People forget lines, lose their voice, are hit with falling sets or lights, and never fatal. Nooses used in a play will undo themselves. Huntington Park, St. Matthias Mission House. It used to be the home of an elderly couple who also died in here many years ago. Many people have seen an old person at the mirror in where their living room used to be. A lot of people have heard footsteps, weird moans and sounds. Things fall and lights turn on and off when no one is in the room. Idlewild Arts Academy, R. McNeil Hall, the main boys' dorm at Idlewild Arts Academy, has been reported to be haunted. Some of the occurrences have been hearing running in the hall after lights out, hearing strange voices, items being moved, as well as being touched by something when no one's there. Imperial Historic Cemetery. If you go out there late at night, you get the feeling of being watched. It feels so much colder once you enter the grounds. There are really weird warm and cold spots in the graveyard. Seems kind of unnatural. It makes you want to leave right away. Stories of people taking photos out there and getting weird lights in them. Also of a monk-like figure by the entrance. Sometimes 1 to 3 shadow hooded figures are seen late at night by the front entrance to the left by the brick triangle. There are cold spots in the same area. You get an eerie feeling of impending doom and being watched and not being welcomed. Weird lights have been seen there floating across the graveyard from greenish blue to fire-like red. A flame like mist has been seen coming out of grave sites and then going back into the ground. Camcorders sometimes turn off even though fully charged. It is very unsettling. Imperial Sunset Ranch Estates Cemetery. A light from the cemetery is seen every night. At some angles it is green, others it's orange. It looks like it's moving, like someone is carrying it. Imperial Valley along the canals and streams. The canals of the Imperial Valley are said to be the home of Llorona, which in English means the crying lady. She was said to be Malinche, the wife of the Spanish conquistador Cortez, an Indian maiden who was taken by lust during his stay, who also bore him 2 children. It was when Cortez was to return to Spain and told Malinche that he would take the children and not her back to Spain that she temporarily went insane and killed her own 2 children to prevent Cortez from taking them. She then disposed of their bodies in a nearby river. It is said that after death she is supposed to walk along the canals and rivers crying, looking for her lost dead children. Reports describe her as a long, slender, ethereal woman dressed in a white, tattered dress. Reports have come from all over the Imperial Valley. Indio High School. Indio High has been around since the early 60s. A former caretaker reports many experiences. One occurred late one rainy night in the front entrance of the school. It is an open space with a once fountain-turned garden in the 90s. One rainy night he was out doing his job, cleaning up classrooms and campus, when from the corner of his eyes he saw two figures in the distance, sitting at the fountain talking and kissing. He thought this was odd, considering it's near midnight, it's raining, and at the time the school was practically in the middle of the desert. So without taking his eyes off of them, he began to approach them to ask them if they might need a ride or shelter from the rain. As he got halfway near the fountain, the male figure wearing a varsity jacket to him, the girl wearing a pretty prom-like dress, stood up and turned towards the caretaker. That's when he realized they hadn't been affected by the rain. Their clothes were completely dried and puffy. They faded away and disappeared. In the late 1970s or early 80s, a group of students were returning home from prom night. The driver didn't see a ditch in the road and hit it. The car flipped, killing 2 girls, 2 boys, and leaving the 5th person in the car in coma for several years. When she finally came to, she was left a vegetable. Later, she died at the age of 27 in her home. If you want to research this info, you're welcome to do so at the Indio Library and Indio High School Library. Inglewood Park Cemetery, sightings of supernatural beings and noises heard throughout the large cemetery. Employees have seen strange and somewhat supernatural occurrences. One such incident occurred when an employee tried to approach a woman who seemed lost but disappeared before he could approach her. On youth prison, an eerie feeling has been reported. An old abandoned youth prison has been closed since 1960. It used to house youth offenders. A February 2007 additional information. This place is currently under construction and is technically not abandoned. The current youth prison was moved down the hill, but is under the same ownership. Preston Castle, Hatep, Pt.2, Bayou, Preston Castle, Com History Index, Tmol, the current Youth Prison Division Board, Archu Borough Cork, Govy Division Boards, DJJ about locations, Preston and Tamil, Black Star Canyon. It's located behind Irvine Park, and the signs say there may new be on reasonable help you people don't go in this port, left this point, this that say no hurt you in. It's supposed to be home of the Kike, and strange sightings and noises are heard, such as running and screaming. Also, lion-type figures are said to be walking on the mountain tops. Warning, if you do plan to go, take flashlights, because it is freakishly dark. For a sort of weapon would also be a good idea. Irvine High School Theatre, a very talented drama student, died suddenly back in the 1970s. To this day, people working in the theatre at night say that the friendly spirit often sits in the centre of the house and can sometimes be seen as a green, faintly glowing region of the seating. A vine orange tree patio homes Oriental man walking his dog and practicing his golf swings walks by the pool areas almost every night at 3:30 p.m. Irvine University of California, Irvine, a campus strata. When driving alone at night, your car will stall and a woman will stand at your window. She asks you for help to find her daughter, but for some odd reason, her mouth doesn't move. You just hear her subconsciously. You can't refuse because, well, she ends up in the passenger seat anyway. The story behind it is that a woman was looking for her child after being kidnapped, and she found out that her daughter was raped and killed. She was in denial about it, so she kept looking for her. She was walking along Campus Road and went down to the ditch and never came back up. Irvine Woodbridge High School, there has been sightings of a large black apparition roaming the school times. If you see it, you must get far away from it. Sometimes the apparition will get mad and throw school trash cans around. Jamestown, the Willow Steakhouse, the Willow Hotel reportedly has been haunted since the 1800s. Under the hotel, an old gold mine caved in and killed 23 miners, and now the hotel is haunted by these miners. Joshua Tree Inn. Objects shake, move by themselves, and sometimes disappear only to reappear later. Keddy Resort. The unsolved murder of a family took place in cabin 28, and that writing appears on the walls of the cabin, along with chairs moving and other phenomenon. The once deserted resort is being renovated by a new owner, although cabin 28 has supposedly been demolished after being condemned. A reader reports being there on Jan 22, 2003, and cabin 28 still stands. Keene Hospital. The old abandoned hospital can be found off dirt roads in the back of the small town of Keene. It was once a huge TB hospital that housed so many victims that it was eventually forced to close. Legend has it that in the children's ward you can hear kids laughing and talking. In the rest of the building, strange voices and noises can be heard. Kelso Depot, when the place was abandoned and closed down, you could see a man walking upstairs. It has been told that many of years ago a man hung himself in room 6, and to this day is a strange stain on the wall in that room. Kearney Mansion. In this small town there is a historical place called Kearney Mansion. Built around 100 years ago, Mr. Kearney's mansion is surrounded by trees. Railroad tracks near this mansion are definitely haunted, seen by many eyewitnesses. If you cross over these railroad tracks at night, you will definitely see the Kearney witch who lives nearby, wearing all white, pleading for the cars to stop. Legend has it that she will follow your car or you as you pass her, and if you look into her eyes, you'll die. Kearney Park. Witnesses have heard the laughter of children as if they were playing when none are present at 1:30 a.m. Arvin Mortuary. There's a ghost in the mortuary that they refer to as the White Lady. She has been seen many times. There's also been many sightings of a white light. There's been many times when the PA system was off and you could still hear Troy music clearly. Kern County, Lone Pine Recreation Park off Highway 395. Little girl sliding down the slide wearing a pink jacket and a white shirt with pig tails, small, maybe 3 or 4 years old. Sea night, calendar 20, Fifi Zo thrilled. Lodo Highway, a woman dressed in a flowing gown, somewhat like the ones from the 30s or 40s, can be seen floating about a foot off the road from east to west on Lerdo Highway between Freeway 99 and State Road 43. She has been seen there for years and years. Legend has it that she was on her way to her wedding and was killed in a car accident. Keys, Single T Canal. A mysterious lady with a bluish glow has been seen roaming the banks of this canal. She has even been known to chase people until they get off the canal bank. Legend has it that the woman died trying to save one of her children caught in one of the irrigation pipes. She is known to locals as the Blue Lady. Kingsburg, Bangor Seat. The old church on the north side of Bangor Seat has been the place of many unnatural occurrences. Lights have been seen in the building even though it has no power. Doors lock and unlock on their own. People have been seen in the windows at night, but during the day the building was boarded up. An old man could be seen on the porch, standing against the wall. He would turn and walk through the front doors of the church. Humanoid figures with wings and tails would stand on top of the roof. Something would swing from a rope in the bell tower. You could hear the bell in the bell tower, even though the bell was removed years ago. Windows that were nailed shut would open and close on their own. Children have been seen playing in front of the old building. Glowing orbs have been seen, and strange figures with no faces and no legs below the knee have chased people off the property many times. S-No-T. The building was torn down about 4 years ago and a house built on the property. The house took an extremely long time to build, much longer than it should have taken. La Habra, Esteli the Hills. When going back, sometimes you can hear voices yelling. Some footprints of animals that have 7 claws, and loud whooshing noises when getting close to the hills, but goes away when you get a little bit farther away. Creatures that move incredibly fast and make high-pitched growls with spikes on their backs, and dark clouds gather above and follow you back to Esteli. You get feelings of fear and the feeling you're not welcome to La Hebra. Friendly Hills Medical Group building is now abandoned from bankruptcy. Reports by security people of cold spats. Toilets flushing by themselves, voices in hallways, heart monitor heard in cardiac room, some EVP phenomena recorded, feeling of not being welcomed. Pt.2, the building is now torn down. La Habra Depot, theatre, loud footsteps in theatre. Amtrak train, it uses a dressing room, loud banging noises, vision of young girl peeking around wall. Vision of couple in Victorian couple walking as seen in mirror. La Hebra, Seria Vista School, people have seen ghostly things up around the classroom areas and on the street right next to the back of the school. People run away from the school and when they look back there is something chasing them. It sounds like a lie, but it has happened to many people. When you are there by yourself, the swings all around the school, the little birds one, the hubberlob, the older goes the guys made a year elderly member of the club golf club. This 80 year around the school many sightings. Girls starts to swing and there are creaking sounds through. Strange occurrences at the club include noises, lights that come on by themselves, and especially there are dark shadows that move in the corridors and on the golf course. La Jolla Muirlands Middle School, as you walk down the halls you can sometimes hear people talking behind you, and when you turn you find that there is no one. In the auditorium, you can sometimes the lights turn on and off by themselves. La Mirada, Bristol Drive, June 2008 update. There is no longer an abandoned house. Someone has moved in and changed it up. La Mirada Creek Park across the bridge to the right there is a staircase up a hill in between bushes. At the top of the stairs there is a witty-ish grey figure standing there. It looks like a statue or a person with a hood on. Late at night, when you are walking down the stairs by the horse trail or on the horse trail, people have heard a little girl screaming for her mom. If you walk by the opening in the trees closest to the stairs, people claim to see the little girl looking at them. La Mirada, Taco Bell, Roscrance's Ave. Some reports say in the bathroom you hear voices in your ear and lights flicker when you are alone next to the window. Reports have seen a man next to you on the table in the back. La Puente, Hurley Elementary School, Tetherball Courts. They said 2 kids were playing tetherball after school around 70 p.m. One of the kids hit the ball and the chains wrapped around one of the kids' throat. The other one didn't know what to do while her friend was choking. So the kid ran home. They said the kid choked on the chains. Late nights, residents say you could in hitting the pole on the court and the sound of someone choking. La Puente, Nogel's Burgers, the father of the owner, walks around at night. There have been many accounts of this happening. The owner has seen it many times, so have security guards. This man died many years ago in a grease fire where he burned to death. There's also a wall with photos that was once thrown across the restaurant. La Puente, Nogales High School, Nogales, is haunted by a spirit that wanders the quad late at night. It is said to be the spirit of a young student who was killed on the nearby train tracks. La Puente, Puente Hills Mall, AMC workers claim to see little kids running around the theatre and they suddenly vanish into thin air. Update, a little background info. The Puente Hills Mall AMC Theatre was attached to the mall until 1996. The Broadway department store was known by employees to be very haunted. On the 3rd floor, stock workers were frightened by music coming from a locked and empty stockroom, and the area of the freight elevator was quite simply a terrifying place for me to work in. Workers had feelings of panic and chills. On the 2nd floor, employees heard their names called by someone unseen. This was a very common occurrence, experienced even by non-believers. Clothing would swing on racks as though someone were walking between the racks. Cool breezes and the sound of breathing were felt and heard in the stock rooms of the children's department. And several times before the store opened, employees heard the sounds of someone straightening the racks in the lingerie department and see 2 legs wearing black pants standing behind a tall fixture on which were hung bathrobes. It started, but the sounds and legs disappeared when they went to see who was working. All of this occurred both before, during and after store hours. Also, in the 2nd floor freight area, they would see people passing the door of the room in which they were working, but no one was present when they checked the hallway. This too was a common activity. The 1st floor had similar activities, but employees working after hours in the freight dock would see what we thought were customers passing the windows of the dock doors. But when investigated, the store was empty. One dock guy quit after he experienced this a couple of times. The store was closed and torn down in 1996, and the theatre was built. Reportedly, only one person ever died on the store property. A manager had a heart attack while at work and died while they were loading her into the ambulance. A child was severely injured once while playing on the escalator from the 2nd to the 1st floor, and his blood stains had soaked into the tile at the foot of the escalator and remained until the store was destroyed. La Quinta Walmart employees claim to hear a little girl's laughter late at night when the stores closed, and they've also heard toys falling off the shelves. La Silva Beach Tyler House, what is now a teenage recovery house, is the site of the Leaner House, where a family lived during the gold rush in the mid-1800s, but moved to Aptos after a while. There was also a Jesuit mission in the area. Both have since been torn down and the Tyler House stands in its place. The beach nearby is also haunted by a boy who drowned there in the 1960s. The Tyler House residents have experienced noises and objects moving, as well as reports of windows opening and closing on their own, a very haunted house. Laverne Damien High School, towards dusk, a large, fast-moving white mist-like cloud can be seen moving across campus in the direction of the football field. It has also been observed moving across the football field. The 400 building towards the south of the school nearby by the gym is rumored to be haunted by a known spirit late at night. It's rumored you can see the hallway lights turn on by themselves and then see a shadow walking the hallway, but there's nobody there when one tries to look. Lafayette Park Hotel. Guests complain about a little girl calling for her mommy and jumps on the beds. Apparitions, pictures fall of the walls, vending machines dispense soda on their own. Cold spots and doors slam. Laguna Hills, top of the world. Stories of the little girl that ran away from home to her school because her parents were fighting. She sat on the swing crying. The next morning the custodian found her. Evidently she had died of hypothermia. Reports of hearing and seeing a little girl in the playground at night. Laguna Woods, yet formerly Laguna Hills. Leisure World Theatre. Footsteps are heard in the booth by staff in the offices below, especially when there is no one in the building. Technicians have reported someone looking over their shoulders during shows. Opinion has it that this is Bud, a former printer who moved to Leisure World in the mid-60s and worked in the theatre as its first tech. Lake Balboa Birmingham High School before a high school, Birmingham High School. Named after General Birmingham, was a World War II hospital for amputees and other injured soldiers. Many soldiers died during their stay at the hospital. After UBBUSC, the hospital was renovated into present-day Birmingham High School. At night you can hear Rusty squeaking noises while standing on the quad. Strange feelings of another presence can also be felt along the front steps of the Performing Arts building and in the front entrance area. Lake Elsinore, the abandoned country club burned down. Reports of an eerie feeling of not being welcome there. The place is in shambles on the inside and is always unusually cold in the hallway to the right of the foyer. Strange things are said to happen here frequently. Update has recently burned down. Very negative place it was when it was standing, and the land and ruins that are now left have not changed that cold place one bit. On one interesting note, the country club burned down in a huge fire and didn't so much as singe the property surrounding it. Lake Elsinore Divider Field, so reflections. Supposedly 3 or 4 workers plowing out the area for construction were accidentally killed by some of the machinery. Strange hot and cold spots have been recorded. Lake Elsinore, Elsinore Middle School, March 2080, updated correction. Formerly posted as Elsinore High School. In the early 50s, a freshman hung herself in the back of the stage in the theatre. She had been hurt and embarrassed in a hazing by the soccer team. On several occasions, people have claimed to hear a girl choking when there is no one in the theatre. Lake Elsinore, the home interiors of Mrs. 144, formerly known as the Chimes. People have said that they have felt cold spots where the China dolls are located. The spirit of the person who drowned in the pool has been seen roaming around in the basement area. December 2006. It's finished being restored. In certain areas it is cold and creepy. It's been transformed into a gift shop, tea house, a spare Lake Elsinore Main Street abandoned hotel on Saturday nights. It has been said by many, and also the mechanic shop, that they often hear screaming inside the hotel. The whole place is boarded up. Also they see a man in a janitor's suit looking down off the roof at about 1 in the morning. Lake Forest Best Western Hotel employees have felt uneasy around the bottom floor rooms. EVP has been recorded and photos have been taken in one of the rooms. Cold spots in the kitchen area of the room. Lake Hughes Willowbrook Estates. Owner of the estate hosts weddings, to include a nightly stay at an on-grounds guest house. While staying at the guest house, doors opened and closed, lights went on and off, and rustling noises went on throughout the night. 1997. Lake Tahoe. Periodically there are reports that a young woman has been seen floating below the surface of the lake. She is dressed in fine clothing from the late 1800s. Lakewood High School. It is known to be said that in the pool area the light will go on and off and there will be invisible footsteps of water on the side. It is said to be haunted by a swim coach who blew a blood vessel while screaming at his team. Lakewood St. Joseph High School, June 2008 correction has been removed. Story was untrue. Lancaster Antelope Valley Hospital. Staff on 5th floor report hearing noises and seeing doors move. Eerie feeling when on 4th and 5th floors. Lancaster Cemetery. You can see a little girl dressed in old-fashioned clothes looking at you if you walk through the cemetery at night. Lancaster Demolished Insane Asylum. Iron 9th, the concrete slabs of cells still remain. Voices can be heard late night along with screaming and banging noises on metal. People have even complained of being chased. Lancaster High School, in the theatre the house light will randomly turn off, or on, well, you can clearly see that no one is by light box. There are also rumours that if you sit in the seats and you have the lights off, you will see a white figure walk across the stage and towards you. The Lancaster Hotel, it's the oldest building in the city and is so haunted that employees are warned that if they talk about the ghost to anyone, they will be fired. At random times, you can hear footsteps on the wooden floors on both levels, music from an old scratchy record, and you can smell vanilla and old flowers in certain areas. It's open to the public and is across the street from the LPSA, Lancaster Performing Arts Centre, Fun Arts Centre Lancaster built. It is said that when the theatre was first being built, an elderly woman was standing on the stage during construction and accidentally stepped back into the orchestra pit. She landed on her head, breaking her neck, dying instantly. Actors who have performed at the theatre claim to have seen her ghost downstairs in the green room and stairwell. Many see a black figure, others feel a strange sensation causing them to want to get out of there immediately. No one has ever seen her upstairs. They believe it's because there's nowhere to fall downstairs and she feels safer there. Lancaster Shamrock carpet cleaners' footsteps have been heard in the back of the building, and a telephone and carpet rolls have moved themselves. A ghost of a man has also been seen. He is reported named Job. A stale bridge, letter a young Richard committed off the Mojang River. Below in the name, the standard joke with Rizok Midanish into suicide to opening Mostain in 1970s. His ghost has been seen on the bridge at dusk wearing blue jeans and a red checkered flannel. Lemon Grove, Kentucky Fried Chicken, after an employee named Rudy died during his shift. Strange things started happening. A security back door would open by itself after closing. Feeling of not being alone. Dishes being cleaned when no one was around. Other reports such as flickering lights, cold spots, and items disappearing then reappearing somewhere else. Limor, Kings River on Elgin. It is said that a woman had 2 of her kids drown in the river there. She attempted to try and save them, but in turn lost her own life. Since then it is said that she can be seen walking in the bushes with a lantern calling for her kids and asking for someone to save her kids. And if anyone enters the water in an attempt to save them, she then takes them under in return. Limor High School Auditorium English building. Reports by many students include shadows that move by themselves, 2 girls laughing in the 5th row, 6th and 7th seat, and the presence of a man on the balcony wearing a bolo hat. Limor High Theatre. The theatre is haunted by 2 ghosts. One is an old man who died from a heart attack. He is said to be sitting in the last row. His seat always stays cold. The other is a boy about 16 or 17 who fell from the balcony when working spotlights for a play. People have said that they can hear his screams. Limor Odd Fellows Lodge. Each year on Halloween, the local drama club puts up a haunted house. The spirits of the family that used to live there seem not to like this. Since during the haunts, people working there report sighting shadows of people wearing Victorian-era clothes, cold spots of extreme heat, a hallway that seems to be unnaturally dark, and when in there for long amounts of time you hear voices call out your names and hands push you. A deep male voice telling us to LAEV, to Oresti, and sightings of strange green and red lights on the roof. The spirits are generally menacing, and people would find themselves with a feeling of deep dread after spending long times in the building. Lennox, Buford Elementary School. Right when you go inside the school, there's a tombstone of a teacher that died. They say that they seen her walking around the school into the night. They also say that people hear voices by the bathrooms. It just happens in the night. Lennox Hawthorne High School, Tonneman Hall, reports of a former drama teacher seen looking for his students. And there is a lady that only comes out when you go up to the stage. You can see her up where the lights are. Lincoln Teal Hallow, very few people have seen the ghost of a 4-year-old boy on a big wheel. Livermore Paterson's Pass, supposedly. A class of children were taking a field trip. On the way, the bus broke down. Everyone got out of the bus and tried pushing it. The bus then rolled backwards and crushed all the students. Now, if you go to the marker 15T7 and put your car in neutral, the students try to push you. While they push you, their fingerprints appear on your car and you hear footsteps on the gravel beneath. Livermore, the sanitarium. One night in 1789, a groundskeeper for the tuberculosis hospital went crazy and shot all the children. Their screams can be heard constantly. Loma Linda, Montecito graveyard witnesses report a ghost dressed in white at 200 am and don't look at the gate, but you will hear something behind you like a voice. But if you turn back at the gate, it disappears, and at Halloween you see a fog at night. Lomita Fleming Middle School, the students share a legend of a haunting by saying that one of the bathrooms is haunted. Someone supposedly died there and now you can see her face in the mirror. A March 2007 updated correction. The school was built in the 1920s and it was a 6-year school. When the new high school was built, it took the name Arbonne, so the old school had to come up with a new name. This is probably all urban myth. There are other stories. One is about an elevator that went up to the 3rd floor, but there is no elevator. One thing is that the school was built in the 1920s and that the school's name was changed to honor Alexander Fleming. The submitter does not remember the school's original name, but the name change occurred in the 1940s. The 3rd floor can only be reached by a rather steep set of stairs. The 3rd floor was seldom used. Because of this fact, there is one hallway up there with about 20 rooms in total, 10 on each side of the hall. Some classes were held on the 3rd floor, but it was mostly unused. Lompoc, a Burger King, long ago, and boy went and hung himself in the ladies' restroom. When the story is about to close, a seat ends up in the bathroom, the very spot where he hung himself, but tipped over as if he kicked it so he could be hanged. A worker saw a white ghostly figure standing in and staring at the other workers who were closing up. When the last person leaves, you can hear a loud banging on the bathroom door. Then when check it, no one is there. There is said to be cold spot when you sit at the table behind the straw despiser. Lompoc, Mission La Purisma, the large chapel definitely has 2 separate presences. One is of a priest. The other chapel presence is a young girl. She was more than likely baptized at and lived at the mission. Her presence is strongest in the back by the baptismal font. It is one of happiness and a youthful playfulness. She was possibly a pre-teen. Lompoc, Tahitian village, supposedly built on an Indian burial site. Chumash there have been voices and strange occurrences, including hearing a faint voice in one of the apartment closets of a man playing guitar, 2 men stealing goods from the pantry, and scratches on residents' faces in the middle of the night. Lone Pine train depot off 395, eerie darkness in the baggage compartment, and reports of a little girl behind the ticket counter with a doll in her arms. Long Beach Brooks College. The college was built on the site of an old Navy hospital that existed during WUUT. The hospital took in all the soldiers that were wounded in the Pacific. The hospital was torn down and the dorms for Call State Long Beach were built. Many students report seeing men in Navy garb. A man in a doctor's coat is also reported. Long Beach, Casa Bonita. Downtown on 6th St. Casa Bonita is an extremely old building that's recently been refurbished and restored in downtown Long Beach. It used to be a hotel a long time ago. Residents and visitors share stories of strange noises being heard in the basement where the laundry room is located. A woman screaming in the hallway where there was no one there for the screams to have come from. Cold spots in apartments and hallways. Hanging lamps swinging when there is no breeze. Long Beach DeForest Nature Trail, black figures seen floating around, moaning heard and children laughing, cold spots and screaming heard, especially by the end towards the Riverbed Trail. Long Beach DeForest Park, there's cold spots, voices saying help me and saying people's names, rapid footsteps, spots where there are no sounds, and then all of a sudden a whoosh of extremely cold air. Whispering of more than one voice at late night. There is thick fog within the forest and a beam of light within the fog. Long Beach jobs, corpse, and many people who live on campus have seen an older woman wearing a white wedding dress walking the halls of their dorm rooms late at night. Long Beach, Los Cerritos Ranchos, close to 300 people died there of a plague, and it is haunted by the founder and builder Don John Temple. The bathroom is a hot spot of activity with many cold spats around it, and a lady in white has been seen in the men's bathroom. Long Beach Marriott Hotel Room 1870. Several tries more than necessary to turn the television off. On several occasions while sitting on the bed you can feel something or someone tugging at the bedspread. The feeling of being touched by someone at the top of your back, as well as the sense of a presence in the room, very eerie and experienced by several people on different occasions. Long Beach, the Queen Mary. It is said that a male ghost has been seen in the engine room where he was killed while the ship was still in service. There have also been reports of the sound of children playing in the pool, sounds of splashing water in the empty pool area, accompanied by wet feet print apparitions around the surrounding pool area. The most accessible haunted area is near door 13 in the engine room, where a young man was crushed trying to escape a fire. Another haunting area is the front desk of what is now the hotel portion of the ship. Sightings include a mysterious woman in white and a couple walking through the hallway. Long Beach, the Queen Mary room B340. This is the room now closed by management due to unexplained events which occur to guests. B340 is located in an abandoned area of the ship's long hallway corridor. Lights mysteriously flicker and a very cold feeling surrounds the area. It is also said the door knocks on occasion to those who knock. Los Angeles Ambassador Hotel. Last year, during the filming of VH1's Random Play, several crew members reported seeing a ghostly figure appear in a fourth-story window, lean and out, and then disappear. Also, lights would inexplicably turn on and off. Strange cold spots were felt and shooting lights were seen in hallways. Los Angeles, Angel City Brewery, formerly Pabst Blue Ribbon. This complex house is one of the largest artist colony in the world. Upon ascending the stairs in the main building leading up to the rooftop, many voices could be heard. It sounds like 100 muted conversations going on at the same time. The sound of trains and freeway traffic are audible until reaching the rooftop. Once on the roof, even the visible freeway traffic and rail yard is dead silent. Los Angeles Bancroft Middle School, late at night or in the morning. Teachers and even some students claim that in the main building on the third floor they hear whispers and footsteps behind them, and when they look back there is no one there. Also, in the gym during physical education the lights suddenly go on and off. Besides that, the janitor claims that all of a sudden the ropes to climb will move by itself and the volleyball nets outside shake very hard. Los Angeles Bell Garden Civic School, a janitor who committed suicide is said to haunt the two-story building. Also on the art class there are many cold spots, and out of the corner of your eye you can see someone standing. Los Angeles High School is the spirit of a young girl by the old name Kramer Bella haunts the Belmont Auditorium. She has reported to follow actors and crew around the stage during rehearsals, flickering lights, moving curtains, turning on and off the faucets in the dressing rooms, and occasionally is heard opening and shutting doors. Legend has it, she is the spirit of a young girl who attended the once private Belmont School for Girls during the 1900s and died there shortly after a fire destroyed the school. Los Angeles Birmingham High School, it was a hospital in Bububi. Reports include voices at night and cold spots. Los Angeles Boyle Heights Roosevelt High School are building, biggest from all the rest, and the building is 3 stories high and it long. A couple decades ago the building wasn't 3 stories high, it was 4, and it was to believe that there was a fire and some student died. Here's the story. 3 students were in a classroom and it was a dance night in Roosevelt and one of the students was spying on his girlfriend because he believed that she was cheating on him. So he was just looking out the window down into the other students, and his others, the ones inside the classroom with him, left, and one of them was smoking a cigarette, and when he was going out the door he threw the cigarette in the trash and the whole floor burned and one student died. Though that's what people believe. Of course, in the fire, that when they stay late in the 3/3 quiet building they will footsteps. Now to this day teachers play at night, the wall floor burn, once window doors opening and closing and TVs turning on and off by themselves, and the same with the auditorium. It's a part of the building as well. Some students will say that they hear claps and whispers when trying to skip classes, eventually run out of there. Los Angeles Boyle Heights, Our Lady of Talpa Catholic School. In the school's auditorium you can hear footsteps and movement from behind the stage curtains. In the hallways and bathrooms you can also hear footsteps like someone is running only to look and no one is there. It is said that a nun who was a teacher there died during one of her classes of heart attack or old age. She played the piano and sometimes the piano in the auditorium will play on its own. Los Angeles, Cal State LA Facia. In the Phase 2 section of the dorms at CCUA there is a storage room that is haunted. Once a room till the year 1999, it has been known to emanate loud moans and screams, as well as residents in that dorm and the dorm next door being disturbed at all hours of the day and night by persistent knocking and voices. The ghost of a blonde lady has been seen in the area and has been known to ask residents of her dorm, "Do you think I would not know?" The story goes that she came in to find her roommate sleeping with her boyfriend. Distraught and emotionally exhausted from midterms, she hangs herself in the hallway directly outside her roommate's room for an eerie surprise. Los Angeles, Carson AO refinery, dark figures walking around, valves turning by themselves. In the early years of the refinery, when safety was not emphasized and the refinery was a much more dangerous place to work, many have perished and died. Los Angeles Cathedral High School, the cold spots near the senior patio. In the yearbook newspaper room, the staff has heard noises on floor above them, even though they were the only ones on campus. The yearbook newspaper room used to be a chapel, still has the stained glass windows, said to have a negative energy in the room. School was built over a graveyard. Coffin nails are still being found in the football field. When it rains, there is a spot on the field that never gets wet. Strange occurrences during theatre productions held in the gym have also been reported, including a chair flying across the floor. Los Angeles, Chinatown apartment on Centennial State, footsteps in the living room, doors opening without the wind blowing and noises by the baby's crib, and it feels like someone is standing right next to you when you're sleeping in the living room by yourself. Los Angeles city industry, Puente Hills Mall, reports of phenomenon happen inside the corridors, voices being heard during the graveyard shifts, lights flickering on and off during the night hours, noises coming from the ceiling like someone was climbing through the air shafts, cold spots inside some of the corridors. A suicide happened in 2004 in the lower level women's restroom by Sears. She shot herself in the head. Sightings of a dark image inside the corridors and restrooms mirror where the suicide took place. AMC Theatre sightings of children seen running through the walls. Robinson's May motion sensor security alarm goes off for no apparent reasons. We thought it was mice or rats running around. Exterminator was hired. He said there were no signs of rats or mice inside. Los Angeles, the Coliseum. In the 1960s, a man fell off the top floor of the sports complex to his death. Many people thought that he had been pushed, but the court ruled it an accidental death. On night games towards the end of the game, an apparition of a man is seen on the top floor of the complex, as well as the sounds of screaming and a loud chew in CH. Los Angeles Cypress Park Branch Library. This library opened in 1924. Over the years, several ghost sightings have been witnessed by numerous people. Ex-worker there once spotted a translucent male floating near the old fireplace. Ghostly whispers can sometimes be heard in the men's room. Cold spots can be felt near the occult section and fireplace. Los Angeles downtown cabin, the first interstate bog, now called the Aeon Building. The building on Wilshire burned down on May 4, 1988. An engineer was riding the elevator when the doors opened on the 12th floor, the place where the fire was taking place. When they found his body, it was shriveled and burnt. Janitors have reported hearing noises and lights switching on and off on the 11th floor as well as the 32nd floor. Also, a couple of people committed suicide by jumping off the top. One man jumped because his wife left him. Another lady a couple of years back in the 90s, her intestines were hanging off the trees. But many claim the entire building is damned. Los Angeles Elysian Park. Throughout the park there have been sightings dating back to before Dodger Stadium and even before the 110-ton fire went through there. Many families lived and died in the hills and valleys in this green area just north of downtown LA. The story of the White Lady is about a woman who drowned her children in the river and wanders the park crying for them. Other versions of the White Lady story include visions of headless dogs near the sighting of the White Lady. Human figures have seen entering the tunnel under the 110th fire at Solano Ave, but not emerging on the other side. In the lodge area, light flicker along the hillsides. Street lights often go on and off when couples park under them at night and talk about the spirits in the park. Elysian Park hosts Dodger Stadium, which removed many long-time residents whose families dated back to colonial times. The anger of these forcefully removed families or the return of spirits to the beauty of the area are the fuel for the legends. On the east side of the park there was a cemetery that was dug up for the construction of the 1 and 10 and Cathedral High School, which has its own stories of unexplained events. Los Angeles Fairfax High School in the rotunda shadows have been seen and cold spots have been felt. A number of students felt the urge to jump off the third-floor balcony. When I walked past the entrance to the third-floor balcony, I felt the sudden urge to break through the gate and jump off. 2 people killed by hanging themselves and jumping off. Cold spots have also been felt and light flicker in the auditorium. 1 person died falling off fixing lights. Los Angeles Figueroa Hotel, sometimes the elevator will stop on certain floors for no reason. When the doors open, no one is there. Strange sounds throughout the hallways and in the rooms. Televisions turn on in the middle of the night by themselves and will not shut off. Los Angeles Franklin High School. This school is haunted by a former student who died when she fell off a balcony on the 4th floor overlooking the quad. Some students claim that if you go to the balcony today and look down on the quad, you will feel the presence of someone standing next to you. If you look over quickly, you will catch a glimpse of the dead girl staring down before she disappears. Los Angeles Fremont High School, the stage in the auditorium. The strange shadows and feelings. Los Angeles Griffith Park, this old park known to a lot of people, is known for its tragedy history. History has it that previous owners of the park were dying mysteriously. Today, the park's camp road has been closed because of strange happenings. Some people report to see sacrifices and other witch-like ceremonies being held there. But when they go the next day, they would find no sign of such happenings. Los Angeles Highland Park, Franklin High School. The ghost of a deceased student haunts the auditorium and the surrounding classrooms. The student had died in the 50s and continues to be heard and seen by faculty and students alike. Loud, unexplained noises are heard. Los Angeles Houdini's Mansion. It is the abandoned mansion of the magician Houdini. Many people say it is haunted and have heard footsteps on the large stairs of Houdini's mansion. Many apparitions of a man walking also is seen through pictures. Los Angeles I. Magnum Bullock's building on Wilshire Boulevard near Vermont. Now part of the Southwest Law School, the old department store built in 1929 was converted into a law library. A security guard working there during its renovation could hear a little girl's voice crying from the elevator shaft. It was rumored that a man had pushed the girl into the elevator shaft, killing her back in the 1930s. Other strange happenings observed were lights coming on and off, windows and shades being opened and closed with no one in the building, and footsteps being heard on the stairway. Some construction workers reported finding secret passageways that lead from Messier Bullock's penthouse in the building. Several construction workers had quit during remodeling due to unexplained phenomena taking place in the building's clock tower. Los Angeles JFK Library, 3rd floor south. The story is that some people who had been getting stoned in the 3rd floor bathroom experimented with some laced substances, resulting in a loss of their sanity and the bludgeoning of one of them and at least one other. On the evenings near closing time after hours and in the early morning, the faucets turned themselves on and off, as well as locked doors being forced open. There have also been reports of cold spots in the restroom and in the area surrounding the bathroom. There is an eerie feeling in that area, and sometimes you can hear stoned laughter. Los Angeles John Marshall High School. Students believe the 4th floor is haunted because of it being restricted. Any info, please email Haunted Places, mail to Haunted Places, the Shadowlands. Net April 2005. Correction, the rumor is that a boy was murdered up there in the 4th floor. On the 3rd floor, witnesses would hear noises down the hallway as if someone was touching the lockers, like someone was trying to open the locker type noise. When the submitter of this update would go to the 3rd floor, they always wondered why the stairs that lead to the 4th floor would be caged shut. While they attended that school, not once had they ever seen the stairs that lead to the 4th floor ever cleaned. The 3 years they attended, the same filth would be there. The school was built sometime in 1936. Los Angeles, Knott's Berry Farm, Mrs. Knott's Chicken Dinner Restaurant, a ghost in one of the empty, windowless back dining rooms. Looked like an old woman, and the buzzboy claimed it was simply a fog. Los Angeles, LA County, Walnut, City of Industry, St. Mary's Catholic School. Since the school doubled as an orphanage, the kids also lived there. When the school was running, Kids played in the small field behind the school. One night, a couple of kids, unknown how many, snuck out of their beds and went outside to play. The next day, the nuns found the kids dead outside. No one knows how they died, or some make up stories, but if you go there at night, you can hear running inside the building and the sounds of swings and other children's toys moving. There are also devil worshippers who write anti-Christ slurs on the walls in blood, which can be found throughout the school. There is also a story that someone was killed in the bathroom facilities behind the school, either by gang members or devil worshippers. You can see the handprints in blood and other stains inside the back rooms. Los Angeles LA County Museum of Arts, ACUA. According to security guards, a woman was shot by her husband because she was sleeping with other men. She is now a very active spirit, supposedly begging men who visit the building that see her to put it nicely, have sex with her, as well as playing with the electrical system. Contractors doing work at the site have left in fear and never come back. Los Angeles Lycée Francis uphill campus. In the Oakville campus for the boys' locker room is haunted. The lights go on and of then turn, the door goes slam and is looked but from the inside. Sometimes the locker open and close by themselves. Last seen in year 2001-2002. Los Angeles Lincoln Heights, Lincoln High School. Underneath the school there are tunnels where they used in case of bombs in the early 1900s. In the 1960s, a mother of one of the Black Panthers hid her Black Panther son there for 3 years. In those tunnels there is an abandoned shooting range, and you hear those guns going off during school hours. And early in the morning around 6:30, when the hall lights are off, you see student apparitions in the distance of the oldest building there. Los Angeles Airport Marriott. Many strange occurrences have been reported over the years. Apparitions of different beings show up in the lounge on the 18th floor, in the parking garage, accompanied by feelings of terror, strange smells and sounds. Rumor is that the front office is cursed. 6 suicides of people who worked in the front office since the hotel opened in 1972. Los Angeles City Hall. Security officers report a haunting on the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 27th and 28th floors. The sin floor is the scariest. The whole floor is in marble. There are noises coming from many directions and there always feels like someone is watching you. Security officers have reported seeing apparitions in this area. The 3rd and 4th floor always seem as though someone is with you as you walk. The 27th floor, Tom Bradley room, has paintings of all the former mayors of Los Angeles. There is one painting located in the back hallway that is really eerie. The painting was done in the late 1800 to early 1900. This painting looks like a regular photograph, and the man inside the painting seems to watch you with his eyes. This painting is extremely lifelike. On the 28th floor, there seems to be a lot of energy. CCTV cameras have picked up human figure images. It has been believed that at one time or another that City Hall housed a morgue. All occurrences have happened between the hours of 0:30 0500 am. But be advised the building is closed to the public at these hours. Los Angeles Pet Cemetery. The Little Rascals dog Pt.2, Hopalong Cassidy's horse and Mary Pickford's dog are all interred here. However, the dead animal that does the most haunting here is Kabar, a Great Dane that belonged to Rudolph Valentino. The dog died in 1929, but its playful phantom is still reported panting or licking people that wander near its grave. Los Angeles Senior High School. There is a man who sings to Frank Sinatra songs wandering the theater. Sometimes he opens and closes the elevator door or sits in the audience section clapping unexpectedly. Usually he is around. Students and teachers have said to feel his presence moving around. Los Angeles Loyola High School reported noises and movement at night in the field house. A classroom which used to be a dormitory for students in the 60s is haunted by a student who killed himself in a trapdoor located on the ceiling of the room. Students and even the teacher who uses the room report an eerie presence there. The living quarters for the Jesuits is reportedly visited by an apparition of a nun. The school itself is over 150 years old. Los Angeles Loyola Marymount University's Health Theatre. The Strub Theatre is said to be haunted by an old lady who sits in the back of the house watching the stage. Several actors have seen her in the audience while performing on stage, and stage managers, while locking up the theatre after rehearsals or productions, have reported seeing her staring intently at the stage. Los Angeles Loyola Marymount University. If Rains Hall, students have reported seeing strange apparitions, as well as the ghost of a girl who died there from heart complications in 1998. Los Angeles Manual Arts High School, the school's print shop believed to be haunted by the ghost of its first print shop teacher who worked there for over 40 years. Students have felt someone looking over their shoulder as they worked developing film in the darkroom. Witnesses have seen a man out of the corner of their eye, standing outside the darkroom near the film drying area. Los Angeles, Norwalk AMC Theatre Lit and screams have been reported. Los Angeles, Neutrogena, Johnson & Johnson Corporation. There is a total of 3 ghosts here at Neutrogena. The original founder's wife was shot execution style here, and so was his son. Workers and security officers working late nights will see a woman in a white dress walking around, a child playing in the factory and running as there are no children allowed in the buildings due to the hazards, and a strange growl. Los Angeles Occidental College, a Erdmann Hall, a room in the center. Front side of the sin floor of the Erdmann Residence Hall at Occidental College is haunted by 2 spirits. One of a young person who plays friendly tricks on the living in order to solicit their attention and friendship. The playful spirit has been known to turn the water faucets on and off, not a plumbing problem. The knobs have been seen turning on their own, the lights are tuned on and off. The chain on the door is taken on and off, and written messages are found on the walls. The other spirit is a dark and heavy presence that resides in one of the room's 2 closets. This dark being can be felt late at night, typically when a person is trying to sleep. It has been described as a large dark man who stands by the door and watches as you sleep. It is clearly not friendly, but it does no more than make its presence felt. No explanation has been offered as to the source of these spirits, but they are accompanied by a few other manifestations in other parts of the building, but are concentrated in this particular room. Los Angeles Occidental College on Newcomb Hall years ago, a student who had been having problems being away from home sank into a deep depression. She hung herself inside the dorm on the 2nd floor. Strange things, setting of alarms and presence felt. Los Angeles Our Lady of Loreto Elementary. There have been reports of a woman with red heels walking down an empty hall on the soon floor. Students get the urge to climb the roof stairs and jump off the roof. A 5th grader did this in the 70s. Lights turn on and off inexplicably, and laughter is heard in the auditorium girls' bathroom. Los Angeles, Qantas Freight Warehouse, a warehouse worker that died while working in the bypass section in the warehouse haunts Qantas Freight. There have been numerous witnesses that claim to have seen his ghost working normally, and when approached he turns around and his face and hands are bloody and mangled. The workers report the stranger to the managers, and when they look for him he disappears. Many graveyard shift workers claim that he appears mostly in the cooler room checking the human remains section. Los Angeles Renaissance, Los Angeles Airport, mostly strange sounds in the rooms and the feeling of being followed and watched. Los Angeles Roosevelt High School, our building, most of the staff, members and students have reported that strange noises can be heard in the auditorium and lights go off and on when no one is there. Los Angeles, the Dodger Stadium, ghost seen sitting in the seats. Los Angeles, the overpass over Pasadena Freeway, reports of a residual scene of a murder happening, a woman running, a man running after her. When they reach the edge of the overpass, he grabs her to strangle her and throws her over. Los Angeles University of Judaism, when the school was first being built, and there kids and students used to come and hang out at night on the soccer field that was there. A girl was raped, her tongue cut out and murdered. It is said on nights in September and October, she has been seen her wandering the soccer field trying to scream and call out the names of her attackers, and that if any males wander down to the field on nights, she is out. They will go mute while on the field. Los Angeles Virgil Gieda High Auditorium, reports of doors opening and closing on their own, low moaning sounds emitted from empty rooms, and ropes hanging from a pipe in a bathroom stall, so where a student allegedly hung himself. There has also been sightings of a glowing clown-like apparition. Los Angeles Walnut Lemon Ave, the lady was killed by car accident. You can see her crossing the street by 9:00 p.m. through 3:00 a.m. Los Angeles Westchester High School. It is said that 3 ghosts haunt the school. There is a young man believed to be 16-18 haunting the school. Back in the 70s, the boy was playing basketball for his PE class. As he went up for a shot, someone took his legs out from under him and he crushed his skull and broke his neck. Late at night after hours, you can hear the young man playing, and you can encounter a ghostly figure walk up to you and ask, "Do you got game?" Then laugh and disappear. The other two ghosts seem to be a couple. They are seen all over the school every now and then. They will disappear when seen by other people. The couple will follow and mess with you until you leave. Los Angeles, Westwood, Dijkstra Hall. Supposedly there is a lively spirit still hovering over the third floor of the dormitory, where a couple of years ago a young student, overwhelmed by life, committed suicide by hanging himself in the dormitory closet. It is said that the kid killed himself across from one of the restrooms, where creepy noises can be heard during the night. Los Angeles Wilson High School. A running figure can be seen along the track of the high school. This person was said to be running at a time late at night when some gang member saw him and chased him with their car, killing him. Now this runner haunts the track. Another haunting at Wilson is in one of the dark rooms in the photography class, reports of being pushed around and even locked in the room. Also, a figure of a football player sitting on the bar near the docks can be seen. It has been said that after a game he was sitting there and fell back about 8 feet, hitting his head and killing him. Reports of the apparition of a boy seen sitting from a window he was pushed from. Los Angeles Palace Theatre. The Vaudeville Era Palace at 6th and Broadway is said to be extensively haunted by spectral stage workers and theatre guests. One of the seats near the front of the house supposedly is haunted by a man who was shot there when discovered out on a date with the wrong woman. 2 old stage hands bicker in the wings. When a show stinks, the spirits make their opinion known by lobbing invisible rotten eggs at the stage. Ghost hunters have identified nearly 24 individual hauntings in the building. There is some mischievous activity, but nothing particularly scary. Los Angeles University of California Dijkstra Hall. Dijkstra 10th floor showers turn on by themselves. Not a drip, but a full force shower when no one's in the shower area. Residents will turn them off and they'll turn back on. Rise have been sent to investigate, and the problems were reported to facilities who didn't find anything wrong with the showers. Los Angeles Venice High School. It has been said that auditorium lights and sound turn on by themselves sometimes while events are taking place. Also screams being heard in the control room, also the place. Sometimes, always are the events. It's very eerie culture, just aware that facts. Past history and the awakening, they would call it feeling when you own the school gets very auditorium and just a law for the school itself, as very similarity haunting the place. Los Angeles, Venice Beach, Westminster Ave, apartment bug. Charlie Chaplin used to own several of the large buildings that sit near or along the famous Venice Beach boardwalk in Los Angeles. In the day, these buildings were commonly used as bath houses or lodging for wealthy vacationers. Today, these buildings have been converted to apartment buildings for the local artists, musicians, and other creative types that now inhabit Venice Beach. Incidentally, these buildings cradle around the famous building number 26 on Westminster Ave. It has been documented in print as well as Chaplin's films that during the early 1900s he did much of his filming in and around these properties on Westminster Avenue. In 1915, during the filming of By the Sea, Chaplin's stunt double mysteriously disappeared from the film set. Production was put on hold for 3 days and a full-on manhunt was instated. After turning up empty-handed, it was assumed that the long-time friend of Chaplin's must have quit and left on his own recognizance. The studios that were financially backing the film were losing money. Under haste, Chaplin was forced to replace his stunt double and continue production of the film. On the 7th day after the disappearance, Chaplin returned to his dressing room after a day of shooting. His dressing room was located in the basement of the now famous building number 26 on Westminster. It is documented that Chaplin, while accompanied by an entourage, entered the room to discover his stunt double and longtime friend lying dead on the floor, wet and covered in seaweed. The man appeared to have been deceased for several days. How he had ended up on the floor of Chaplin's dressing room after missing for almost an entire week is still to this day a complete mystery. The inhabitants of the famous building claim to still hear strange noises emanating from the walls of somebody walking through shallow water. Other noises include moaning and sounds of someone distantly crying for help, in addition to the assortment of disturbing sounds. There have been several sightings of what appears to be an apparition of a man bound by the hands and feet standing in luminous corners of the large building. Quite possibly, the most blood-curdling detail of all these sightings is what the man is seen wearing. He's dressed the same way he was the day he disappeared. A chaplain-esque tuxedo coat with tails and the proverbial black derby hat. Los Angeles Vista Linda Hospital, the elevators operate by themselves. There are terrible odors in the third floor. The smell of sick people, cold spots, and sudden chills. In the crematory there's lack of air. It's very dry and eerie when you walk in. Los Gatos, Biox, Chevox Hair Salon between North Santa Cruz Lave and Village Lane, reports of mirrors falling from walls. Los Gatos, Billy Jones Wildcat Railroad and Bill Mason Carousel. Noises have often been heard from inside the Carousel building, especially after hours. Employees have reported sounds of doors being shut, gates opening and closing, and lights being turned on and off. When employees have investigated such noises, no one was around. Most activity here is pretty docile and friendly, however. Los Gatos Green Valley Disposal Company, the ghost that inhabits this old house where there is now an office, is named Julius. He has played with the electric calculator on one of the desks even while someone is sitting there. At night you can hear a chair rolling across a wooden floor upstairs, and the upstairs is carpeted. There is also a cold spot in a room where things were stored, and also the office downstairs was so cold you had to wear a coat, and there was nothing wrong with the heating or cooling system. Also upstairs, in the cold storage room, the filing cabinets would open and shut very rapidly and then stop. At one time a new phone system was installed, and within a week it completely shut down. The engineers could not even explain it, and while calls were being put on hold, he would disconnect every call on hold. Los Gatos, Hicks Road. A biker died on the road about 10 years ago, and now he haunts the road. The ghost wears a trench coat and rolls around at night on a bike. The bike has no wheels and you can't see his face. You can only see him in your mirrors. Los Gatos, Opera House. A ghost is known to haunt the Opera House in downtown Los Gatos. The ghost has been caught on camera and is known to pull instruments from musicians playing at weddings in the banquet hall. Los Gatos, the summit of the Santa Cruz Mountains. On Old Santa Cruz Highway, going toward Los Gatos, a young woman of about 17 or 18 roams around. She can be seen sitting on the side of the road or walking at twilight. Lingwood Park in the year of 2003. A young man of the age 20 was brutally killed while he was riding his bicycle in the daylight time. During the day and night, people have reported seeing a man riding his bicycle and disappearing in a distance of about 15 feet away from them. Also in the same place he was found dead, people have seen a young man laying down asking for help. Suddenly he disappears.